talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines are just coming up to 10:01. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. Has Arne Slot made his uphill task at Liverpool even harder by saying this?
I think it's going to be really difficult to quiet the outside noise with the position we are in the league.
Slot says every disappointing result means the noise comes back to Liverpool. talkSPORT's Adrian Durham thinks those comments could have an impact on players and fans at Anfield later.
I was listening to the Sports Bar last night. There were one or two calls about Arne Slot and they're baffled by it, and I am as well. So let's see what happens, because I think there might be fallout from what he said yesterday, Arne Slot.
Liverpool host Qarabag. A win seals top 8. We've got Napoli versus Chelsea live on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Newcastle go to PSG. Tricky one, live on talkSPORT from 7 p.m. Elsewhere, wins for Spurs would see them make the knockouts. Man City need other results to go their way as well. Arsenal lead just a point away at bottom side Kairat Almaty to finish top of the group. We understand Bournemouth are in talks with Inter Milan over winger Luis Enrique. Bournemouth want a loan with a buy option of around 18 million. All the latest transfer news at talksport.com. Novak Djokovic has fluked his way into the Australian Open semi-finals. He was 2 sets down to Lorenzo Musetti in the quarters, but the Italian had to retire injured.
You know, I feel really sorry for him, and he was a far better player. I was on my way home tonight.
Yannick Sinner has set up in his quarter-final against the USA's Ben Shelton, and Moeen Ali has unretired himself and signed for Yorkshire's T20 Blast side. Moeen has praised the changes made at Yorkshire following an investigation into racism at the county.
talkSPORT News.
Sir Keir Starmer's arrived in China, the first British Prime Minister to visit the country in 8 years, and a major incident's been declared in Somerset after flooding from Storm Chandra. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, where we've got more premium tyres than the number of times you'll hear, "Ooh, it's a bit nippy this winter." Book today at quickfit.com.
Sunny spells for most of us, but the north and the east of Scotland seeing patchy rain and mountain snow. Northern Ireland, southwest Wales and southwest England breezy with showers.
I think a big round of applause. Can we have a big round of applause? It's a superstar, it's Robbie Williams. Because, I had this idea about a Ryder Cup, European boy bands versus American boy bands in a scrap. Yeah, we did.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we're live on talkSPORT. So, as Arne Slot argues for perspective, what would now represent an acceptable season for Liverpool? Meanwhile, when it comes to referees, has the them versus us mentality got to stop? Also today, is it best to disarm criticism with humour? Will there be movement on the issue of footballers, dementia and CTE? Is access all areas part and parcel of being an athlete? Does Rosignor need a Conte scalp? And how motivating is a fear of failure? It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we're live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Well now, how are the paddle tennis twins? Have we been out in the court again playing each other? Have we been meeting for cosy coffees? What's been happening?
No.
You're looking at him, he's looking at you.
No,
Who wants to go first?
No, not since last time.
No?
I'm sure we'll do it again soon enough. I'm actually planning again next week with some friends of mine. I need some practice to get to Simon's level before I'm allowed on the court with him again.
Oh, I see.
I was actually changing the subject. I was in the company of Emmanuel Petit.
Oh, yes.
Yesterday.
May we? Yeah.
What an impressive.
What were you doing?
I was doing a show, like a quiz comedy kind of show.
All right.
With Alex Booker and Tom Davis, who's great company.
Petit is wonderful, isn't he?
He is.
Great individual.
Great stories.
Yeah.
Charismatic.
Yeah.
Just cool, isn't he?
Absolutely. Great stories, charismatic, cool.
Although
Simon,
he did have double denim on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about some of the gear, I have to say. I was having
a look
at. It's exactly what I was thinking behind the green door.
Emmanuel Petit, if you're listening, yeah, you're a favourite of ours, and we enjoyed your company on Monday. Soon to be joining us again at some stage. It's quite amazing. Some of the politicians come into this building, Simon, with their own security, and the ones who were in this morning, all they want to do is chat to Danny Murphy. Liverpool legend Danny Murphy. They're over chatting to Danny.
Good.
He was a nice guy, actually.
Yeah,
Liked his football. He was asking.
Who's this?
One of the.
Security. You can't name them.
One of the big boys.
One of the big guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Who?
I think I'd take him. I think I'd take him now.
Yes, you had that look about you. A lot to get through this morning. We may as well start on the morning of a huge night in Europe. It's quite remarkable. The final night of the Champions League group phase is upon us, with 5 Premier League teams currently making up the top 8. They all want to be top 8 because that gets you through. You march on after that. Arsenal can relax. They've got there. Liverpool, Tottenham, Newcastle and Chelsea are currently in the top 8, meaning they would avoid the playoffs and go straight into the last 16. Curiously, Manchester City, and we'll hear from Guardiola later, they're currently in a playoff spot. They're behind Newcastle and Chelsea only in goal difference, with 8 teams from 6th to 13th currently sat on 13 points. This new format, Simon, we've spoken about it before, but it does work, doesn't it? I like it.
It works on many levels because it provides the jeopardy from the first game to the last game. When previously you had these rubbers at the back end of a group stage that gave you no commercial value to the broadcasters, no real engagement from the fans, because a lot of these games were just dead rubbers where the outcomes had already been decided, the team had already gone, or a team had already been had already progressed. In this instance, you've got something pretty much on every single game. I remember doing this conversation with a group of potential advertisers and people inside the news building with 2 other journalists, Sean Custis, and they were talking about their like of the game, and Alison Mudd went off rambling on about how Arsenal were her favourite team. But the question was, how is this a format that works well? And the answer is, well, it gives you jeopardy, like I just said, from the first game to the last. You cannot get a better format than this.
I think also from a player's perspective, it's more exciting because you're constantly having different experiences, different challenges. Whereas before, you're playing the same teams twice and it gets a bit samey and a bit boring. And as you say, with the dead rubbers, it's even from you can sense that the games are better. I'm enjoying it.
Well, Liverpool, 4th, play Karabag, who are 18th. Danny, I'm keen to know from you what would constitute an acceptable season for Liverpool. And let's dwell on this, because Arne Slot, in the build-up to this one, was asked what an acceptable season for Liverpool would now be.
When you are Liverpool, the aim is to win the league. But we've only did this twice in the last 30 years. We want to be competitive in every single competition we are in. That's always the aim. But reality is also that in the last 3 years we've won 1 League Cup and 1 Premier League title. So when is things acceptable? I have my opinion about it. I'm not going to share that. Outside world has his opinion about that. As we all know, it's a lot been said about the 450 million, where people tend to forget the 300 million we've brought in. I think it's going to be really difficult to quiet the outside noise with the position we are in the league. So even if we win a few games, every loss or every disappointing result will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did. Not started, but at a certain moment with so many losses. So it's impossible to shut down the noise at a club like this if you are not competing for the league.
What is he doing there, Danny? Is he arguing that people should have a bit of perspective here? Because if he is, it hasn't really come off for him.
Well, I think he's trying to give context. I mean, there's more to that interview as well regarding players, rotations, so lots of things he talks about. He's constantly put in front of the press because that's what you have to do as a manager of a big football club. And generally, I think he does pretty well. He's trying
on this occasion.
Well, unfortunately, because of the predicament they're in, it's some of it can sound a bit like excuses justifying the poor form, and that doesn't always fall well on fans. You know, when the fans who are listening. But he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, really. If he's avoidant and concise and just is a bit flippant with a lot of the questions and moves them forward, then it's like, well, you know what? Why is he not giving us more? Or he's moody, or it's a difficult one. I don't mind it. It doesn't offend me, him trying to give back himself a little bit and give himself some reasons and context as to why they are where they are. Ultimately, Liverpool are always judged on silverware. One of the biggest clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
The only way you can fail on winning silverware is by playing really well and being unlucky, and the fans are with you. Because when Klopp's Liverpool fall a point behind Man City on 96, 97 points and have had a fantastic season and lose a Champions League final or semi-final, you're all right not winning.
Yeah.
But you can't not win silverware and perform badly.
You see, I don't think this has come off for him here, Simon. He goes on to say, again, this is not going to be a popular opinion. Maybe the reason we won the league last season is because we played Paris Saint-Germain. Of course, they went out there and then. He said, we had a week to prepare for the league game.
Yeah, but so does his opposition. I mean, if you're going to compare like for like, I mean, Liverpool in European competition, so are the people that are chasing down the Premier League title with him. I mean, ultimately, Aston Villa, perhaps not so much last season, but notwithstanding that, if you look at the teams that he's competing against to win the league this year, they've all got European competition, so I don't really understand what the argument is. What he's doing is qualifying the perspective. The object of the aim is to build a significant side that's capable of winning leagues there on afterwards, once you've won it.
Yeah.
It's no good going back and reciting the fact that Liverpool won 2 Premier League titles as a blueprint for an answer to the questions that he doesn't like, which is, why aren't you doing it in the here and now? That is an excuse. It is a qualified excuse. It is also fact. And you have to ask yourself, from Liverpool's point of view, why Manchester City were able to win leagues and then go on and build teams that win the next league and the next league. And the answer might simply be they spent more money than everybody else. This season, Liverpool have won a Premier League. I would argue they won a Premier League with a team assembled by Jurgen Klopp that just slotted into and was sensible about. And I think the opposition last year wasn't as strong as in previous seasons and didn't push Liverpool as hard to make Liverpool have to win the league. That doesn't mean that Liverpool winning the league has been diminished or demeaned. It just means that the landscape was not quite as competitive as perhaps it could have been. So here we are now in the here and now. And this is now Slot's team. Okay, he's had some misfortune with players that he insisted upon signing that have had injuries and other players that haven't hit the ground running. And so he doesn't really have any reason for reciting the past, because the past, to some extent, I know that if you look at the past and you don't learn lessons from it, you're doomed to repeat it. So what is his lesson then? They're going to repeat winning the Premier League once every 15 years.
But don't you think, Simon? Don't you think all managers are guilty of this when they're in a corner a little bit? They'll justify things by looking back at what realistic. It's normal because you're constantly in that position of having to.
And the difficulty of the constant media rolling cycle is that if you want to ask a manager a question, say, well, like, what's that got to do with the price of cheese? The fact that you've won 1 Premier League or 2 Premier Leagues over the last 30 years, I'm not quite clear what you're saying. Does that mean that you don't have to win one for the next 10 years then?
You see, I think you're on it, Simon. I got the impression he doesn't really want to answer what would be an acceptable season, Danny. He was skirting round that.
Well, I think sometimes...
So again, I'll put it to you. Yeah. To Danny Murphy, ex-Liverpool, this is your club. What's acceptable to you this season? Judging from where they are now. I mean, bear in mind, they've won 5 of their past 18 Premier League games.
Well, silverware, you've got to win something at Liverpool. Otherwise, a majority of the fans will class it as failure with the money they've spent and with the success of last season, not building on it. If you don't win something, you've failed. Now, you can fail gloriously, and that will be accepted. You can lose an FA Cup final or a Champions League semi-final on penalties, or, you can be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
If they falter in their Champions League campaign in the league and don't win it, i.e. no European football, or no elite European football next season, that will be complete failure for Liverpool Football Club, full stop. There's no caveats, there's no excuses, there's nothing.
Right.
If he finishes outside the top 4 and doesn't win the Premier League, doesn't get in the top 4, he's failed.
Right. He's failed if they're not top 4.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll put it out to the fans this morning. In the build-up to this game, Liverpool against Karabag of Azerbaijan, Kevin Hansard this morning on Breakfast suggesting Karabag, it will not be a straightforward affair because they can bring problems.
I watched them against Chelsea. They're decent.
Yeah, they're decent. They might bring problems to Anfield tonight. But what exactly would represent an acceptable season for your club, Liverpool, in your eyes now? And in an effort to hit some kind of perspective, how did Slot do in the build-up to this game? Give us a call, 03717 223344 81089.
a big round of applause. Can we have a big round of applause? It's a superstar, it's Robbie Williams.
Because, like, I had this idea about a Ryder Cup European boy bands versus American boy bands in a scrap.
Yeah, we did.
It is Wednesday morning, Wednesday, January the 28th. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We're live on talkSPORT, live on your screen as well, even Prime Video. Live on YouTube, wherever you want to watch us, you will find us. A coroner has said that repeatedly heading a football was likely to have contributed to the brain injury of Gordon McQueen, who died back in 2023 at the age of 70. Gordon, who played with distinction for Leeds United, Manchester United and Scotland. Big Gordon's daughter, Hayley McQueen, TV host, of course, Sky Sports. Hayley is going to be joining Simon, myself and Danny just at the back of 11 this morning. We're talking about Liverpool and where Liverpool are at this precise moment. Well, I'll tell you where they are. They're at Anfield at home tonight in the Champions League, 4th in the Champions League, and they're up against 18th placed Karabag. But what would constitute an acceptable season for Liverpool? And in his effort to add some perspective to the situation, did it work for Arne Slot or did it somewhat backfire on them? 03717 223344. So many of Liverpool's fans calling in, probably largely because Danny's alongside Simon and myself this morning. Dylan, good morning to you. What would constitute an acceptable season for you at your club then, Dylan?
Good morning, lads. Great show as always.
Thanks, Dylan.
Well, I think it's an acceptable season, as I agree with Danny. I think a good run in the Cup, Champions League, maybe semi-final, you'd be happy with that. But this might be an emotional opinion, but I was at the Spurs game last season, seeing us win a title in front of fans. And my opinion is, regardless of how we do this season, we have to just guarantee Champions League next season and move on. I don't think a knee-jerk reaction of sacking Slot would be the right choice for the club. It's not what we do. But the one point I did want to make that Simon might be able to help with is I think it's more of a problem above Arne Slot. So in a sense of we need a defender. This happened the season after we won the league with Klopp. We didn't go out, spend the money. We finished 30 points off first place that season with 2 defenders at the back in Kabak and Reece Williams. When you look into it, Diaz and Nunes had a low book value when they were sold. So surely there should be money there to do something like that. I just wonder what Simon thought on that.
I don't really know. I mean, on one hand, you'd say that Liverpool spent £450 million. On the other hand, Arne Slot will say they recouped £300 million. So there's a net spend of 150 million quid. I don't think they've ever been the biggest spenders. And they always tend to buy good players, Liverpool. I mean, obviously, Darwin Núñez, I think, is one that one could debate. So there has to be some sort of scenario where Liverpool and their ambition comes into question. But at the same token, they spent 450 million. I would then argue, as I did previously in the conversations where it was characterised that way, that was spent over 4 transfer windows.
Yeah, because it was also spent on replacing players he didn't probably want to leave, and that's got to be taken into consideration.
Interestingly, Danny, Dylan saying there, what's acceptable? Champions League qualification is acceptable, and you were saying silverware is acceptable.
Well, Champions League qualification with a really strong run in Champions League FA Cup, for example, yeah. It depends how you fail, doesn't it? It's always that way. I don't think anything should just purely be based on silverware. But when you are Liverpool, every season I was there, irrelevant of what the squad was looking like or how much money you spent, the aim is to win something.
Right. Interestingly, to the written media yesterday, Slot accepted that the scrutiny will intensify unless his team makes significant improvements at both ends of the pitch, which will banish the bad cocktail that is holding them back. The bad cocktail.
One of the arguments at the moment, Jim, is the lack of balance in the squad, especially defensively. They're struggling for numbers, right? They're at Bournemouth. They didn't even have a defender to come on. They've got midfielders playing in the back line. So The question mark for the first time in many years is starting to come on the recruitment team above Arne Slot and what they're thinking on spending so much at the top end when everybody knew. You know, I was asked at the beginning of the season, before they signed Isak and Gay, or tried to get Gay, I was like, I'd make sure they get Gay done before Isak. But they didn't. You're so heavily relying on Canate and Van Dijk.
Yeah.
And one of them gets injured. And I mean, they're not winning enough games with those two anyway.
Sure. Here's Chris, who's a big Liverpool fan. Chris, good morning. An acceptable season, what would constitute one for you?
Good morning, gents.
Morning.
Thanks for taking me call. What would be acceptable? To be honest with you, I think Danny and the previous caller has stole most of me thunder in as much as I think right now, I can't wait for the season to be over, to be honest with you, because I think I've not really enjoyed it that much.
Wow, you can't wait for the season to be over.
I think what I mean by that is, I think with the loss of Jota, the impact that had on obviously the team, trying to bed new players coming in, and 1 minute we can play quite well. I think, to be honest with you, I'm not, like Danny's just said, like in relation to the imbalance of it. I just think we're like, I just want to see good performances. I want to see good. I want to see good football.
Yes,
I want to see the team gelling and coming together a bit more. But coming back to the question on what would be acceptable, I think we've got to get into the Champions League. We've got to, because that's where obviously a lot of money comes from, and then hopefully that gets reinvested back into the team, and then you bring better players in. I don't honestly think we're going to win anything this season.
Wow. Okay. All right, Chris, many good points here. I wonder what Kenny thinks. Kenny, big Liverpool fan. You're not King Kenny. Kenny, are you, Kenny?
Well, I was nicknamed after Dad Bleach. I was born in the 70s.
Oh, wow. Brilliant.
You can name me after that because...
Brilliant. What's acceptable to you then?
Well, Liverpool got to win the Champions League. They spent all this money in the transfer window. They've backed the manager, and he's not delivering. He's changing the philosophy of what Jurgen Klopp had instilled after many years of mediocre success. Jurgen Klopp came in, put the philosophy in, built the club ground up. This guy is destroying it. The more he's there, the more influence he's having. You can see the result. He won the league last year because Jurgen Klopp's philosophy was still instilled in the players. Arne Slot plays possession-based football. They're coming the most boring side in the world. It's like when Van Gaal took Man United. I was there at the Burnley game. The fans were shouting, attack, attack, attack. When Van Gaal was at Man United, the fans started shouting, attack, attack, attack. I can see the same parallel to Van Gaal at Man United and Arne Slot at Liverpool.
Kenny, Danny's here. I mean, those are strong points, aren't they?
Yeah, there's so many points. I thought Jamie Carragher's piece on Monday night regarding Liverpool was excellent. You couldn't really deviate from any of his points. The physicality of the side's not there. Mainly, a lot of the Premier League's changed a lot this season, and Liverpool aren't able to cope with it. The long throw-ins, the set plays, they've struggled like mad. Dynamism isn't the same. And ultimately, when you break it down and you look at quality of players, in Liverpool's first team last season was Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. Frimpong and Kirkez are shadows of those two players. Gakpo's playing on the left wing. He couldn't lace Diaz's boots. You know, the quality's less. The team isn't as good as it was last season.
Let's get a couple more before we go at 10:30 to the bulletin. Stephen, good morning. Your thoughts on where your team is right now? What's acceptable?
You talking to me there, Jim, yeah?
Yes, Stephen. Good morning to you, mate.
Good morning, Jim. Crazy show on the plans there. No question about that. Just a quick couple of questions for Danny, mate, if you don't mind, Jim.
Yes.
Jota, Danny, do you know for a fact whether his locker is still vacant when the players walk into the dressing room? And there's 20 minutes clapping and applauding for Diego Jota, Liverpool legend, the greatest respect in the world. Danny, do you know if his shirt is still hanging up in the locker room at Anfield?
I don't, for sure, no. I don't. I don't think his locker would be taken at the training ground, that's for sure. But, yeah, I don't think...
I hope it isn't, Danny, because with the greatest respect in the world, Diego Jota, anyone that walks into a working environment and has got that memory of a hero and a friend, a best friend and a Liverpool legend, they can't perform properly. I know Simon's going to pull me up on this and go, get on with it. No, emotions are very, very important in football. Anyway, let's get back to the question. Arne Slot. Arnie, I want you to turn it around, but I don't think you can. I don't think you got the personality. And Danny, you're a professional. You've been a professional footballer. You walk in any walk of life. You walk into a meeting, and the manager, the man in charge, stands in front of you and starts talking. Your head's going to drop if you don't believe in what he's saying. Arnie, I'm sorry. I love you, but I think it's time to let the Liverpool hierarchy move on. If Alonso is waiting there, get in touch with him. You want to come back to Anfield, come. And he trains with the players.
You're out there with your thoughts this morning, are you not? What do you think, Danny?
I think...
Putting you in the spot a bit.
No, I think a lot of fans share his sentiment. There's a likability there for Slot and what he's tried to do, but ultimately he is struggling to have an impact with the players he's brought in and the team. And it does look at times the team's very disjointed and uncertain of what it's doing. But I certainly don't think the hierarchy or anybody is going to rush and push him out the door. I think he'll get the rest of the season to try and turn it around.
But to Slot's point, you don't think any perspective has been lost at this time?
What do you mean?
Amongst Liverpool fans?
I don't think that interview is going to damage him with the fans particularly. I think the performances and results are what's damaging him.
Yeah.
And unless there's a real difference in the way Liverpool play and some of the results they're getting, I fear for him for the end of the season.
Joe, Liverpool fan, come in quickly, mate, before we hit 10:30. Good morning. What are your thoughts going into this tonight?
Yeah, basically, lads, I think it's just a load of nonsense. So, no, what's going on here? No, I've been supporting Liverpool 55 years. Arne Slot needs the support of the Liverpool club and the supporters, because that's what we do as fans. We don't change our manager every 2 years, gents. The guy come in. You know, Jürgen come in. We were in destitute. We were going out of business when that man came in. He rebuilt the team over 10 years. You know, that's 10 years. This guy has come in.
Yeah.
Okay, there's pockets of players still there. He's got to create his own picture, Jim. We've got to stand by the man. For God's sake, don't start saying, because if we come fourth this season, great. The most important thing is trying to qualify for the Champions League. Sure. If we don't, we go again.
Have you been surprised by the negativity at Anfield in some of the games recently?
I have done, to be honest with you, mate. It's been a bit upsetting, you know, because some of these idiots that's out there, and no disrespect, mate, you know, when you were there with Tomo and Hillier, you know, we stick together, Danny. You know, you go in that dressing room, and if someone's having a bad game, you know, you get up and say, listen, lads, let's get this together.
Good call, Joe. Good call. Thank you so much for that. So Liverpool go in tonight against Karabag in the Champions League. And, of course, they're widely expected to win that. We'll watch for it. It's 10:30.
Has Arne Slot made his job more difficult by saying it's not easy to quieten down the outside noise around Liverpool?
Even if we win a few games, every loss or every disappointing result will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did.
Liverpool's Premier League form is a cause for concern, but talkSPORT's Adrian Durham says they should cruise into the Champions League's top 8.
It's just what impacts Arne Slot's press conference might or might not have, not just on the players, but on the fans at Anfield this evening.
Liverpool host Qarabag this evening. We've got Napoli v Chelsea live on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Ahead of the game, Chelsea fans are warned not to walk around Naples in club colours after 2 fans were taken to hospital following an incident. Meanwhile, Liam Rossini has shut down those Cole Palmer to Man United rumours.
He loves being here and he wants to be a Chelsea player. You can't stop speculation, but some speculation is so far from the truth, there's no point having a discussion about it.
Newcastle also need a win to avoid Champions League playoffs. They're at PSG live on talkSPORT from 7 p.m. Elsewhere, a win for Spurs in Frankfurt would see them through. Man City need other results to go their way. And at the Australian Open tennis, Novak Djokovic says he was on his way home 2 sets down to Lorenzo Mazzetti. But the Italian retired injured, giving Djokovic an easy pass into the semis.
It is Wednesday morning, and we know that out there you like us talking boxing as well as football, of course, which is the main part of the staple diet. We also talk a lot of golf, and especially with Danny on the show, who loves his golf. We're going to do that just now. And I want to turn our attention, Danny, to what is, without doubt, a star-studded event being played over in Bangkok, Thailand this weekend. It's been played over 10 holes of the Robbinswood Golf Course in Bangkok. And star-studded is right. What we have here are icons versus icons. We have Team World from the world of football and against another team, Team England from the world of football. In amongst Team England's lineup, such greats as Teddy Sheringham, Phil Jones, Robbie Fowler, Andy Cole. In amongst Team World, wow, we have players, former players, Gianfranco Zola, Andrei Shevchenko, Ruud Gullit, Ryan Giggs, Nigel de Jong, Gabriel Batistuta. I remember meeting him in Qatar. And Team World is being captained by Thomas Bjorn, who, of course, has graced the golf courses around the world for many, many years and was an absolute stalwart in Europe's attempts to win the Ryder Cup for so many years. Let's go to Bangkok right now and speak to 4 times Ryder Cup winner Thomas Bjorn. Thomas, hi to you. How are you?
I'm good, yeah.
Great to speak to you. What have you involved in here? I mean, this sounds like a very interesting setup with icons everywhere you look.
Yeah, how do you do a team talk to that a lot? It's a bit easier to do to golfers, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty wild to be in a room of these guys. I mean, they're all good fun, but when you get them on the golf course, they go a bit crazy, and the athlete in them come up. So it's going to be a fun, good week. This.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, they were all great in their day on the football field, but they all want to win, these guys, Thomas, don't they? Danny Murphy here is beside me. He's no exception. On the golf course or on the football pitch, they want to win. That can only be good for you.
Yeah, they're all like that. I guess that's what made them great in their sports in their day. But they get out on that golf course and they want to hold those putts. I guess it's kind of the world of it's nice to go out there and beat your friends, and they're all very friendly with each other. They might not have liked each other a lot when they played football, but after their careers have finished, they turn out to be great friends, and they make good friendships on that golf course. But in this event, they'll want to beat the hell out of each other.
What do you know about some of the golfers in your team? I mentioned some of the names. They're certainly big names, but how are they at golf? Anyone standing out?
Now, Gareth Bale is obviously the standout golfer of that lot. I think he played more golf in his last few years when he was active than he played football. But he is a standout golfer. He's exceptional. But there's a lot of good golfers in there. You can tell that some of them do a bit more golf than others. But there's a couple. Shevchenko's a great golfer. I played a lot of golf with him in and around London, and he spends a lot of his time on that golf course. So, there's a lot of good golfers out there, but see how they handle the pressure of being in tournament conditions as well.
Thomas, you need to keep an eye on Nigel de Jong's putting is unbelievable. I've played with him a few times. He's one of the best putters I've ever seen. But on the English side, you need to check Jermaine Genius's handicap certificate, because I think he's probably off 4 or 5, but I've played with him when he shot 4 and 5 under and he hits it about 320 yards. So just have a check of his certificate, will you?
I'll get after him very quickly. Why are you not here, Danny?
Good question, Thomas. Why are you not out there?
I don't know. Maybe you need to be a bit more of a star, but Bullard's probably the star one in that group, and
he hasn't played for England. You have.
That's true. Tell him, get him out, get me in.
I mentioned in the introduction to you, Thomas, you are synonymous with what Europe has done in the Ryder Cup. How important a part of your career is that?
Yeah, it's I grew up in a generation of players that came out of the European greats of Ballesteros and Faldo and that lot, and Ryder Cups became such a big part of our lives. It became the one thing where we could stand out and really stand up to the Americans in a world that was very different then, and it just becomes part of your blood, really. That's what you want to be. And I've been fortunate that the Ryder Cup as a player, but also being involved behind the scenes as a captain, but also a vice captain, has meant a lot to me. And I've got to say, these last 2 Ryder Cups in Rome and in New York with Luke as a captain has probably been the standout ones. They've been very special with the team we've had. Very proud and honored to have been part of it. And it's a huge part of my life. And hopefully I can still go to these Ryder Cups. I'd like to not be so much involved anymore, maybe watch it a bit more from the sidelines.
Thomas, can I ask you about the current situation with the tours? Brooks Koepka's just come back across from Liv. It looks like a couple of the others might be doing the same. Some people are all right and happy about that because of the competitive element, and some are a bit bemused by how they're allowed to come back so easily. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that things change as we go along, and if you asked a couple of years ago, I think the worlds were very divided, and now, you eventually there's got to be some adults in the room that eventually got to start looking out for the best for the game of golf, and the best for the game of golf is that the best players play against each other. Agreed. Somewhere down the road, you need to get them playing more against each other, with each other. And Brooks coming back, I think, is a huge step in the right direction. Where it goes from here and how long it will take before everybody kind of can watch the best golfers play each other all the time is, it's not, they're not close at the moment to get everything sorted out, but they will eventually, because eventually the game has to rise above it and be the most important thing.
And on the PGA Tour now, you've got Scheffler winning his first event he's played this year, obviously. That's what he does. How are the rest going to catch him up? Because it's becoming a bit Tiger-esque, isn't it, what he's doing and the level he's setting?
Yeah, and that's what it is, and I think when Tiger came around, I mean, I came on tour exactly the same time as him, and when you watched him play and you were so much in close to what he was doing, I don't think it was until people started accepting that he was probably better than everybody else, and you just needed to be there when he wasn't on his A+. And I think that's what's there for these guys today, except that Scotty Scheffler is as good, that he is better than everybody else, and then take up that challenge and be there. Once you beat them once, then you can go on. It becomes easier to beat them again. And you just got to be there when he doesn't play his best. He's throwing some exceptional numbers at it at the moment, which is right there up there with the way Tiger played. So, you can only accept as well when somebody's that good and accept that they do such a good job and then just try and do your best to match it when you get the opportunity.
Thomas, in regards to the Ryder Cup, how do you look back in some of the scenes we saw at Bethpage and the behaviour of some of those gobby Americans?
I was wondering if that question was coming. It wasn't the best for the game of golf, and I think golf is probably where it differentiates itself from a lot of other sports, is that we don't see that normally in our sport, but when you go into a football stadium, you see it all the time. So we just don't live in that world, and that got brought to our game. And I think for the players and for golf fans, it was a bit of a shock to the system that was in our game. From our perspective, Luke had a very strong game plan with that, and he prepared the players extremely well. And everything that was thrown in their faces just made them stronger, and they proved that on the golf course. It was a remarkable performance in an environment that they are not used to playing in. But I don't think that we want to go with our game. We don't want to go down that route. I understand that sports can be like that. For sports fans, it can be like that, but I don't think personally that fits our game very well, and we don't really want to see that in our game. So hopefully this was a one-off.
Thomas, you back Luke Donald for another stint at captaincy for the third time in 2027.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but I look at it this way, and I go, this group of guys that have played the last two Ryder Cups, we had 11 guys that played both those Ryder Cups, and there's probably going to be another 8, 9, 10 of them being there in Ireland as well. And so I see this as Luke's guys, it's Luke's team. They respond extremely well to him. For Luke personally, I think he's 48. It'll take him into being 50 and playing Champions Tour golf as well, and it just fits his life as well perfectly. So I think it's a match made in heaven, and I hope that he will take it. He's just been remarkable. He really has been remarkable as a captain. He's been very great to me and great to work with, and I hope he does it again.
Thomas, good luck this weekend. Non-playing captain of Team World, as we mentioned, with some decent names in there: Gareth Bale, Shevchenko, Hewlett, Giggs. What's the last thing you're going to say to your boys as they leave the locker room for the first tee, Thomas?
Well, they got to find those moments of their personal football careers where they were at their best and try and bring it onto this golf course. It's they're athletes that they're performing at the highest level, and we've got to find a way of getting that out of them one more time.
Excellent. Sounds good to us. Thomas Bjorn, thanks so much for your time. It sounds like a great tournament, Danny, doesn't it? Good competition.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be competitive. There's a lot of lads I've played with there. Some really good golfers, actually.
Yeah, Bale's amazing, isn't
he? He's around the scratch. Yeah, I don't think he's... Jim. I think Jimmy would probably be at Jim.
Really?
Yeah, Jimmy's playing a lot of golf at the moment. He's very good.
Right.
But those two are probably the standouts, yeah. But you got some real... I mean, Jermaine Genius hits the ball like a PGA Tour pro in terms of distance.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Right. Okay.
And Nigel de Jong's a very, very good short game player. There's so many good players. And apparently Dwight York's very good as well.
All right. But no invitation for Danny Murphy, who's here with us this morning.
I wouldn't miss this show for that, Jim.
Exactly. Said no to Bangkok, Thailand, and yes to us. What gives? It's 10 to 11 this Wednesday morning.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
The Australian Open update on talkSPORT with TNT Sports. Stream every set live on Discovery Plus or watch TNT Sports channels on EE, Sky and Virgin Media. Subscription required. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. I feel as if I'm on the international desk this morning. One moment Bangkok for the golf. Next moment, the Australian Open down under. Let's get the very latest. Watching for us, Will Hobbs. Will.
Hello, Jim. In the final quarter-final of the singles draw, Jannik Sinner is doing what Jannik Sinner does, and that is beating Ben Shelton. The big serving American #1 has now lost each of his last 21 sets he's played against Sinner. Trails this quarter-final by 2-0, and Sinner is now serving for the match at 5-4 up. Shelton was presented with 3 break points of his own in the second set, but he couldn't take any of them, and he's looked increasingly ragged since then. He has battled better in the third, but Sinner is serving for it. Awaiting probably Sinner in the semi-finals is somehow Novak Djokovic, who was in deep trouble at 2 sets down to Lorenzo Musetti, but incredibly, just before the third set, the Italian required treatment on his groin, only to retire hurt a few games later. Djokovic, of course, got a bye through the last round after his would-be opponent Jakub Mencic forfeited the last 16 through injury, so Djokovic into the last 4 without winning a set in either of the last 2 rounds. He looks very likely to be facing Jannik Sinner, who leads Ben Shelton 2-0, and he's serving for the third set at 5-4 up.
Will, thank you very much indeed. Let's stay with the tennis. Simon, in the era of content, is access all areas part and parcel of being a top athlete? The reason I ask, Coco Gauff has said that at the Open Down Under, there was a lack of privacy as far as she was concerned, and she criticised the broadcaster for showing her smashing a racket after losing to Elina Svitolina in the quarterfinals. And she really does lay into the ground with the racket, beating it time and time again. She lost in under an hour on court, but she waited. She waited until she was off court before she did it in her own racket 7 or 8 times, seemingly unknown that she was being picked up by the TV cameras. This was Goff and what happened.
Yeah, I tried to go somewhere where there's no cameras. Yeah, I kind of feel like I have a thing with the broadcast. I feel like certain moments, the same thing happened to Irina after I played her final U.S. Open. I feel like they don't need to broadcast. I tried to go somewhere where I thought there wasn't a camera because I don't necessarily like breaking rackets, but I lost 1 and 2. I broke 1 racket on quarters, I think, or round of 16 of French Open, I think, and I said I would never do it again on court because I don't feel like that's a good representation. But yeah, I tried to go somewhere where they wouldn't broadcast it, but obviously they did. So yeah, maybe it's some conversations we can be had, because I feel like at this tournament, the only private place we have is the locker room.
So, Simon, she's now saying we'll need to have a word with the broadcaster about this. But, are we in an era of practically nowhere is off limits?
Depends whose perspective you're talking from. If you're talking from the perspective of the broadcasters, who believe that they have an entitlement to be everywhere and anywhere, and ultimately the more they can deliver, the better they feel that their content delivery is. The issue is, why does she need to break rackets? Not why do people need to film her doing it?
Well, there it is. If you're watching on YouTube, that's her setting about her racket behind the scenes.
Yeah, look, maybe it's therapy for her. Maybe it gets her back into a certain state of mind. There's one thing about spontaneity. When back in the day when you saw players losing their mind on a tennis court, whether it be Nalbandian kicking the boarding that got him disqualified from Queen's, or whether it be John McEnroe back in the day setting off with Ginny Connors, or going off against umpires, or breaking rackets, or whoever it might be, Elena Stasi back in the 70s. There was a spontaneity about it. Now we have an athlete is able to keep themselves together on a court, find a place where they can break their racket, and then break their racket, which I find perplexing, but there must be some mindset behind it, and I'm sure her tennis... the manufacturers of her rackets are delighted to see the equipment they provide for it being broken. But as far as the broadcasters are concerned, well, it's a bit like the scorpion and the frog. They are what they are. This is what they do. Why would you be surprised? I mean, it
actually shows she cares. I mean, I think people will probably be like more connected to her for it, because we all have that feeling. I mean, Simon will have much empathy for her, won't you, with your recent... paddle tantrums. So
or did he have a meltdown like
No, but I've heard there has been one or two in recent time.
Oh, I see. Have you? You've broken the odd racket, have you?
They're hard to break, aren't they?
I just throw them at people.
All right. Yeah. The thing is, if you're the broadcaster, if you're the Australian broadcaster, and you capture that,
you're going to show it.
You're going to show it.
You're going to show it.
You're not going to show it.
I guess I suppose it depends what relationship you want with the athletes. And then when the athletes are guarded, and when managers of football clubs don't want to speak because they know that ultimately what they say is going to be weaponised and used against them, the flip side of that is that you get this standoff relationship where you don't get insight. So it's a balancing act. I mean, was there a necessity to show that? I don't think there is. I don't think there's any value in it. I can understand why they're doing it, because it's there to be done. And if it's there to be done, I guess you do it, because that's what you are. You're a broadcaster and you think there's something in that, and you can show this person in their worst, i.e. this is how a professional athlete behaves when they lose. And this is what they do. I mean, listen. I mean, the fact is that she's now, as I said a moment ago, she's moved from spontaneity to being able to compose herself. She has the wherewithal to say, "I'm not going to break tennis rackets on a court again because I got sanctioned in front of everybody when I played at the French Open. I'm going to wander off. I'm going to have enough composure about me to go and do it in a different way." But I don't know what we see in that. I mean, is there any benefit in that? If you're showing that? What do we get from it? What do we learn from it? That athletes respond this way? Is it something that young tennis players should see? Is it something we gain something from? Does it show that they care? Does it show that they are, slightly immature? I think it probably shows all of those things.
I think the viewer loves a tennis meltdown, and we just witnessed one.
If I was a broadcaster, I would show it.
In the context of a tennis match, you like to see Nick Kyrgios giving it to someone on the other side of the net. You're quite happy. I mean, we weren't happy in the late 70s and early 80s when McEnroe was in his pomp. There was an absolute, inhalation of breath, and that's appalling. We can't have that on a tennis court, can we? Surely.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, there is an element of that still exists in people's minds.
Yeah.
So I don't mind confrontation. I don't mind situations where there's a spark. I'm not entirely sure what I get from watching that.
No, I agree with you. What we're actually seeing, what we're actually getting. I tell you what we're getting now. We'll go back to the Australian Open and get another update from Will Hobbs. Will, have you had a meltdown since we last spoke?
No meltdown here, Jim, but Yannick Sinner has finished it against Ben Shelton. There was a golfing class done in straight sets when Shelton served fast. Sinner dealt with it. When he came to the net, he was passed. And for every unforced error Sinner made, Shelton made two. So it'll be Yannick Sinner versus Novak Djokovic in the semi-final. Jessica Pegula and Elena Rybakina clinched their spots earlier. They beat Amanda Anisimova and Iga Swiatek, respectively, both in straight sets. So the semi-finals tomorrow. The other semi in the women's draw, Arina Sabalenka against Alina Svitolina. They'll play each other tomorrow as well. So Yannick Sinner through to face Novak Djokovic.
Will, thank you very much indeed. Wednesday morning means Danny Murphy is alongside Simon and myself. We're at 11 o'clock. Stay with us.
The Australian Open update on talkSPORT with TNT Sports. Every set exclusively live on TNT Sports. Subscription required. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 11:01, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. After a defensive Arne Slot insisted Liverpool can still win a trophy this season, but admitted it's impossible to quieten the noise around their poor form, talkSPORT's Adrian Durham is baffled.
It's just what impacts Arne Slot's press conference might or might not have, not just on the players, but on the fans at Anfield this evening.
Well, former Liverpool midfielder Danny Murphy's told White and Jordan generally Slot does well with the media.
Unfortunately, because of the predicament they're in, it's some of it can sound a bit like excuses justifying the poor form, and that doesn't always fall well on fans. You know, when the fans who are listening.
A win over Karabag would see Liverpool make the Champions League top 8. Newcastle need to beat PSG in Paris to be sure. Former manager Steve Bruce says Newcastle are doing as well as they can, with PSR holding them back.
To compete in all of them, so like they're trying to do, they've had a little bit of a wobble and a struggle with it because of just the strength and depth they haven't really got like others have.
PSG versus Newcastle is live on talkSPORT tonight. Chelsea go to Napoli, live on talkSPORT 2 later. Now, Igor Swiatek's asking, are we tennis players or animals in the zoo? Swiatek's backing Coco Gauff's call for more privacy after she was filmed smashing her racket in a corridor. Meanwhile, Yannick Sinner's set up a semi-final with Novak Djokovic. And in rugby union, France prop Winnie Antonio has been forced to retire at 35. That's after suffering a heart attack. Antonio is now in a stable condition in intensive care. There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Will the Prime Minister's trip to China bring benefits or risks? And a danger to life flood warning has been issued in Dorset. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Rain or shine, our mobile tyre fitting service comes to you, so you can stay on the sofa this winter. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Sunny spells for most of us, but the north and east of Scotland seeing patchy rain and mountain snow. Northern Ireland, southwest Wales and southwest England breezy with showers.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How did you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Good morning, everybody. 4 minutes past 11 o'clock. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT. Huge night in Europe, the Champions League, of course, and big English involvement there tonight. Arsenal, who top the lot at the moment in the Champions League standings, up against Kairat. Eintracht Frankfurt up against Tottenham. Can Thomas Frank get the kind of result he wants? Liverpool against Karabag. Man City against Galatasaray. Chelsea are in Naples. That could get feisty. And that's live on talkSPORT 2, incidentally. And PSG up against Eddie Howe's Newcastle United. And that is live on talkSPORT. So a big one to look forward to tonight. 3 years ago, we lost a great defender in former Leeds United, Manchester United and Scotland player Gordon McQueen. Gordon passed away at the age of 70. He was a great friend of mine. I knew Gordon very well over many years. This week, an inquest was held into the cause of Gordon's death, where the coroner concluded that repeated heading of the football was likely to have contributed to Gordon's brain injury. So the news came through, and it was kind of in many ways news that we expected. In later life, though, Gordon was suffering from vascular dementia and CTE. Professor Willie Stewart, the neurologist at Glasgow University, who examined Gordon's brain, said, "If I hadn't known he was a footballer, I would have thought he was a boxer." In 2019, a study jointly funded by the FA and the PFA found that footballers were 3.5 times more likely to die from neurodegenerative disease than the general population. So we have a lot to talk about here, especially as we're in the company of Gordon's daughter. Gordon has 2 daughters, and Hayley McQueen is one of them. Anna is the other. Hayley, my former colleague at Sky Sports. Hayley, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us, especially at this time, and I'm delighted that you found time to come in. First of all, Hayley, I mean, I know your mum and I know the rest of the family. How is the family reflecting on Monday's inquest hearing and the coroner's view, Hayley, that heading of football was likely to have contributed to Gordon's brain injury?
I think relieved, and I think now we know what we thought all along, and even what my dad started to think about before his death. And we did talk about it at great length, because when we knew that my dad didn't have much time left, we came up with an agreement that we would donate his brain for medical research. He obviously had a post-mortem, which was done locally. And then after that, his brain then went to Professor Willie Stewart, who I'd spoken to about neurodegenerative disease, obviously as a leading consultant in this and someone who's led these incredible field studies. So having been in a privileged position of working for Sky and having a lot of information readily available about the links, I decided to explore it a little bit more. And obviously you mentioned there, footballers are 3.5 times more likely to suffer from brain disease. Actually, defenders are 5 times more likely. Obviously, my dad was a centre-half. He was tall. He was known for his aerial presence. He was known for some of the great goals that he scored. And we will still celebrate and look back fondly, but obviously look back at it slightly differently, because we know that that was something which contributed to his death, and that the horrible way he had to live his life for the last 2 years, certainly, and for the whole of his 60s, he was robbed of that. He was robbed of being a granddad, potentially still working in football. So I think we feel relieved that the outcome is what we had hoped for. It certainly isn't something to celebrate. I didn't know how I was going to feel after the inquest and whether I wanted to do media and speak to people or not. I spoke to Sarah Jane on Sky News, keeping it in-house at Sky, and I know her and she's my friend, and I felt safe. And obviously, I've known you since I was a wee girl growing up in Scotland, and you knew my dad very well, so I feel quite safe in this space. But I didn't know emotionally how I was going to feel off the back of an inquest.
Hayley, can you talk to us about Gordon's original diagnosis of vascular dementia and CTE? I mean, when did the family notice that he was changing?
It was personality changes, and Simon Jordan will know here. Sorry, I don't know why I called you Michael Jordan. But, you know. Simon would
call him anything you like.
Yeah, I mean, I might do by the end of this. I'm sure he's going to get at me with some questions.
You're fine.
About heading footballs. You met my dad. I've met you before on holiday in Marbella. My dad is full of life. He's fun. He's a great character. He lived life to the fullest, certainly.
Yeah.
And he started to become a little bit withdrawn, wasn't that keen to go out. Certainly socialised still with some of his close friends, but a lot of the after dinner circuit speaking that he was regularly sort of working at, he wasn't feeling as comfortable. And I started to notice a lot of changes more in his personality than anything, which is why I wasn't sure if it was dementia or not. There's a lot of dementia symptoms which were not very typical in my dad. So it was quite hard to kind of understand what it was. It took a while before we got the vascular dementia diagnosis, and that was sort of early stages. But unfortunately, you can't diagnose CTE until someone is gone.
Yes. I mean, I've seen a quote from yours, Hayley, that you would come in when he played, and you would talk about him. He needed to lie down. He would say that he was having headaches, and you remember thinking at the time, well, why are you having headaches?
Yeah.
Why, Dad? Why'd you have to go to bed?
Yeah, I remember. I was just like, poor mum, she's got 3 kids, all very close in age. I was very young, but the eldest of the 3 of us, and would just want to play with him. But he'd be just laid at home in bed. He'd quite often be in a dark room. He suffered from migraines. And I remember that as a very, very young child. I was only 5, 6 years old when he played for Manchester United. But I even remember as early as that. Certainly as I grew up, I don't recall him ever really being ill. I don't recall him having headaches, but I do very distinctly remember that. And I talked to him about it before he passed as well. But Gary Pallister is someone who lives not too far away from our family home, who's spoken as well about his own worries about his own health and brain, and said, Hayley, look, I had terrible migraines when I played, absolutely terrible. He said, I would used to have to sit out of training, or asked to sit out of training. He said, and I am petrified now.
Yep.
And he has a routine every day. He goes to the same coffee shop in the same place. He does his crosswords or whatever it is, just to keep his mind going and to keep it ticking over, as my dad did. But he then lost the ability to write. He almost had Parkinson's-like symptoms as well. When they actually did his post-mortem, they found no amyloid. There was no Alzheimer's in my dad, and there was no Parkinson's. We have no history of dementia, certainly on the McQueen side of the family. And it was this CTE, which is brain damage.
We're going to get to a stage shortly, Hayley. I'm going to put it to you that what should happen now from an industry perspective, and we'll bring Danny and certainly Simon in at that stage. Another Jordan, who I've known for years, Joe Jordan, your dad's big pal, Joe, ex-Leeds and Manchester United. Joe outlined how Gordon would practice heading on a daily basis, but also stayed behind for aerial clearances from balls, Danny, balls that were pumped at Gordon from 40 odd yards out. And Joe would say Gordon's task was to jump and attack the ball, head it as far as he could, powerfully as he could, clear the danger. This was after training.
Yeah.
So no wonder he was going to hit problems much further down the line.
Yeah, and I'd heard that he used to do that with Gary Bailey as well. So we reached out to him, and as part of this research process that I went through, because I didn't appoint anybody legally until the final inquest. We had 2 pre-inquests where everybody was there with a lot of legal representatives, the FA, the SFA, Manchester United, Leeds United, and there was just me there fighting it on my own. So I used what was available and went online, spoke to professors in America, contacted Professor Willie Stewart, contacted players throughout the whole of my dad's career, ticking off every single stage of his career across the era of him playing at Leeds, Manchester United and Scotland, to get sort of accounts of what training and what the drills would be like. So I contacted Lou Macari, Eddie Gray, Joe Jordan, Gary Bailey, a few others as well. And obviously the coroner took them on, and we could paint a picture of how often that type of training was done, and sort of your head tennis and things like that, to look at how many times he potentially would have head the ball during his career. And look, he retired in his mid to early 30s. So it was over quite a short spell, really, that he was doing that.
Hayley, the other side of this break, we'll bring in Danny and Simon. This is a tricky bit. The final years, what were they like for Gordon and your family? Can I just say to everybody listening and watching this morning, this was a wonderful man. It was Hayley's dad, but I was lucky enough to know him for many years, played golf with him. He won a golf tournament in Latuke, which is one of the toughest golf courses you could ever imagine, Dan, as you know. He was just a fabulous individual to be around, larger than life.
Yeah. Good fun. A lot of fun.
And you remember us being around at New Year and things like that. But the final years, Hayley, were painful.
Yeah, just because it was so sad to see somebody so withdrawn. He sometimes wouldn't speak until he was spoken to. He had real problems with, he had a thing called dysphagia, which is very common in people with much later stage Alzheimer's and dementia, where your brain doesn't tell your throat to swallow. So you can't take in food. And normally that is the very last stage that you go through with dementia and Alzheimer's. You lose so much weight that you basically waste away. And that unfortunately happened with my dad. But he knew who everybody was. He would have friends around watching football. He'd watch Soccer Saturday. He'd be listening into talks. He would have the radio on constantly. He'd watch every Scottish football match he could get hold of on the TV. He was signed up to every subscription. He was constantly watching. And I would come in, he'd be like, oh, well, you know, Hartlepool did this and Sunderland did that. He would follow the local news as well. He was so clued up, but yet he couldn't put one foot in front of the other. He couldn't swallow food. He wouldn't have been able to make a cup of tea. He couldn't get out of bed and walk. He couldn't go to the loo on his own. And that is just a horrendous thing to see a big, strong, proud man go through. And he was very much, I adored my dad. The only reason I'm doing the job I'm doing is because of my dad. The love of his game was passed on to me and got me in at Sky. Thank you very much. But he was just this person that he just disappeared, and he was so proud, didn't want to let on. And in fact, he didn't let us know that he had anything wrong with him. You could quite clearly see, and we knew he had dementia, but it was never talked about. And he said to my mum often, he said, he said before, he said, if I lived in America, I'd just get a gun and shoot myself.
My goodness.
That's what my dad is. He said, I just don't want to be here anymore. He didn't like people seeing how he was. He was embarrassed. Joe Jordan was there in the last week of his life. He had all of his great friends come to pop to see him and sat with him and talked to him and read to him and watched football with him. But he was almost embarrassed of the state that he was in, and he shouldn't have been. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Which is why I now want to make sure that his death isn't in vain and we carry on this message. And there are lots of things we can do going forward. And I don't want to look back. I don't want to look back and completely blame football. I don't want to not look at that header he scored against England at Wembley and not celebrate it. And that's happened. It's the past. You can't hold grudges. It's about what do we do taking this forward, and want to make my dad proud about, hopefully not having anybody else put into the situation that he was. And as a daughter, I cared for him, as did my sister, physically cared for him. I drove home every single week with the toddler with perimenopausal symptoms, looking after my dad. And it was horrendous. It was not a nice thing to go through, but I wanted to be there and care for him as my parents had with us growing up. But I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And we used to have talks. I'll be fine, don't worry. He went for respite care once, and I'm just off to training. I'm just off to football camp. And we just let him think that we believed what he was saying. Even one of the last things he said before he died was, I am fine. So you've got to smile about that, really, haven't you?
Oh, Hayley. Well, I'm glad we're going to look to the future, and we'll do that in the company of Hayley McQueen just after this.
Big round of applause. Can we have a big round of applause? It's a superstar. It's Robbie Williams.
Because I had this idea about a Ryder Cup European boy bands versus American boy bands in a scrap.
Yeah, we did.
Wednesday morning. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we're in the company of Hayley McQueen, who's in studio, my former colleague at Sky Sports. 3 years ago, we lost Gordon, Hayley's dad, who played for Leeds United, Manchester United in Scotland. He passed away at the age of 70, and an inquest this week found that the cause of Gordon's death, the coroner concluded that repeated heading of the football was likely to have contributed to Gordon's brain injury. And Hayley is bravely speaking about her dad and maybe what should happen now. Hayley, let's get on to that, and I'll bring Simon and Danny in. What do you want to happen now from an industry perspective?
Well, interestingly, on the morning of the inquest, the FA and the SFA presented the coroner with their pamphlet guidelines about heading footballs and training practices and how they have limited it. We know what they've done, along with the Irish FA, in under 12s and in children, obviously banning it and limiting it. But these are these sort of pamphlets and booklets that they provide to football clubs about limiting heading. They don't say why, and I would like that to be in there. I'd like them to put the actual dangers in there and outline that. But I don't know if it's being communicated. I don't think it's being implemented. There's a lot of meetings that you have at the start of the season. I spoke to a football coach just the other day who's worked in Premier League, within Premier League teams very recently, and has said, I didn't know anything about this. You sit down at the beginning and you talk about refereeing changes, you talk about changes to the game, you have meetings about various things, but whether they're going through that and actually communicating that to the players, which you'd think would be highly important if you're looking after the welfare of these assets that you have, if you're looking after your body, as these Premier League, Championship and other footballers do now, at any level, a professional footballer, you look after your body. I would want to know about how I look after my brain as well.
Yeah, and you're calling for annual brain scans.
Brain scan.
Right?
Unfortunately, you cannot tell whether you have CTE until a post-mortem. However, there are studies out in the States right now that say there are ways of being able to see sort of markers as to whether you have some kind of brain damage, maybe scanning for dementia at a young age. I don't know what you do if you found it. That's the other thing. I have absolutely no idea.
Though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. What do you think from an industry perspective, Simon? And Hayley's brilliantly, and it's a tough job, outlined what happened in the process with Gordon, her dad. I mean,
it's a duty
from an industry perspective.
Well, it's a duty of care perspective, isn't it? At the same time, as the industry has never wanted and will never want it to be classified as an industrial injury, they have given it as a no-fault industrial injury, which means there's no compensation claims open to people in the past. I will always make the case, and make it repeatedly and endlessly, that the union should be at the front of this. They're very well funded. They take £20-30 million a year out of the broadcasting deal. And rather than spending their time patronising DEI initiatives, I think they'd be well served in looking at initiatives like this. And they should be at the front of the queue. They shouldn't be dragged there kicking and screaming by the Dawn Assels of the world, or the Penny Watsons of the world, or the Hayley McQueens of the world. They should be there at the front of the queue because that's what their job is in life. Now, the difficulty is, like, we live in life and we know, when we sit here now and we talk about what footballers, when we sit here thinking about footballers heading balls, people whacking a ball 40 yards up the field to Gordon McQueen after training sessions to head balls back and forward on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The logic thing thinks, well, that must have an effect. But that's contemporaneous information. It's because we now know the medical world that we live in. 50, 60 years ago, the average age of a person in this country was probably 20 years less than it is now, because people are more involved in their own well-being, they're more involved in healthy eating, they're more informed. So the question is about informed choice. Can you take heading out of football? What is the consequence of this new information? It provides informed choice. Because as we've just discussed, my father had vascular dementia. He played football, was a professional footballer, but he didn't obviously reach the levels and heights that Gordon reached. And he died from vascular dementia.
Yeah.
So I've seen it myself. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. I know how degrading and debilitating it is. But what benefit is wisdom if it doesn't profit the wise? The only profiting of the wise now is to give people informed choice. Because unless you're going to take heading out of football, you are still going to be exposed to an element of constant heading a ball during the course of a game. If you start to provide the education around it, I don't think it's a secret anymore. There's a lot of noise about this, and professional football clubs are well aware of it, and so are the medical teams well aware of it. And I don't think there's any consequences in making sure that every aspect of a professional football club, from its leading players down to its academy kids, are informed about the consequences of heading balls. And I think already remedial action has been brought into play about how young you can be and how much a heading of a ball you can do.
Yeah.
It then becomes about what becomes the obligation of the industry the FA, the Premier League. Then it becomes about the obligation of the employer, i.e. the person that's engaging the football and actually putting them through the heading routines or the exposure to this circumstance.
Right.
And then it becomes about the responsibility of the individual. Because who pays for the scans every single year? It's interesting when we talked about boxing and we talked about the analysis of
Well, they
boxing.
do it in boxing, don't they?
Well, we had a
On
boxing
an annual basis.
We brought Josh Boazzi in here and said, "Do you worry about these sort of things?" He said, "No, don't worry about it. You know, I'm aware of the fact that getting punched in the face is a very with huge jeopardy.
Part of the job.
But it's what I do. It's what's going to take me out of the lifestyle.
I don't think if I was a player, and most players would probably say the same, that you'd change your ambition and what you want to do. You'd keep doing it. I think that the more knowledge, the better. In that, if football clubs had more knowledge, and as you say, it's probably there already, then they would tailor the training and manufacture the training to a point where some of the... I remember Houllier thought we weren't very good aerially. And we used to do twice a week a particular heading. Don't bore you with the details of it, but it was all about heading, and it was aggressive, and everyone was having, and it's... I don't think that might happen now with the information that's there. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not involved.
At the top of the game,
Yeah.
there is no excuse. I mean, there's no excuse for elite players at elite football clubs not to be fully informed about their medical condition. There's no barrier to entry of having a brain scan on a football every single year at a Premier League football club. It'll fall out of their pocket on the way to a game. It's when you get down the pyramid and all of a sudden you're sitting in League Two where they can barely open the gates at times and meet their obligations. That who then picks up the consequences of these costs, and how the game and how the Premier League and how these things should actually be looked at and how they're funded and how the PFA step up to the plate and go, right, we've got 2,500 professionals or more than that in the game. We need to provide an environment that every player is screened and it doesn't become the obligation of an employer. Not because I want to get employers out of it, but because I know the argument down the pyramid. There ain't going to be no argument at Liverpool or Manchester United about doing this. There will be an argument at Salford or at Hartlepool.
Hayley, have you heard from the PFA much along the way?
I've heard from Dawn Astle, who reached out as the daughter of someone else who's gone through it. I actually gave her a call before the inquest because I was like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know how it's going to play out. I thought the PFA would have been there in a different sort of professional capacity as a party, as an interested party, because Manchester United were there, Leeds United there. We'd reached out to St Mirren. The SFA were there. The FA weren't there at first. It was the SFA who got in touch with the FA to say, where are you in this? That was at
the Scottish Football Association got in touch with the FA.
Yes, correct.
Right.
To ask where they were at the pre-inquest hearing, and they should have been an interested party. My dad played all of his club football in England. The SFA were there because, of course, he represented his country as well. But I don't know how I would have... Dawn did offer to come and support me as a person. Shouldn't really be up to her. I would have felt uncomfortable about accepting that help because they weren't there to help us in my dad's life. When my sister sent them emails and begged for help and asked where to go next, and they sent us round in circles and told us how to get help from social care. The government shouldn't be funding this. The Players' Union should be funding it. We spent almost over probably £100,000 caring for my dad with private care, home care, specialist meals, adaptation of the home, putting him into respite care to give my mum a break. A lot of money. I've spoken to John Stiles a lot about how much it cost his family. There are families that are lucky enough to be able to have the money to foot the bill, but there are many that aren't. But they have a little bit of their savings. Why should they be depleted in caring for their partners when the union is there with a fund that should be helping, not just emotionally with some Zoom call with an Admiral nurse, which is what we'll provide an Admiral nurse. They'd advertise their services. We spoke to an Admiral nurse they told us how to apply for help, to seek help from the government. We couldn't because our house is worth a certain amount and we did have some money in the savings, but that's gone now because we used it caring for my dad.
Wow. Hayley, we're going to take a quick break at 11:30. We'll hear the latest news bulletin. And we'll carry on with Hayley for our final part. The other side of the 11:30 bulletin is Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, and Hayley McQueen. And we're live on talkSPORT.
Has Arne Slot made his job more difficult by saying it's not easy to quiet
will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did.
Liverpool's Premier League form is a cause for concern, but talkSPORT's Adrian Durham says they should cruise into the Champions League's top 8.
It's just what impacts Arne Slot's press conference might or might not have, not just on the players, but on the fans at Anfield this evening.
Liverpool host Karabag this evening. We've got Napoli v Chelsea live on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Ahead of the game, Chelsea fans are warned not to walk around Naples in club colours after 2 fans were taken to hospital following an incident. Meanwhile, Liam Rossini has shut down those coal parks.
It is Wednesday morning, a lot to look forward to in the Champions League tonight, and we are right across the lot, whether it's talkSPORT or talkSPORT 2. Wednesday, January the 28th, it's Jim White and Simon Jordan, as always, between 10 and 1 weekdays on talkSPORT. We've been talking about this great man, and my God, he was a great guy. What a fella to know. I'm privileged to have known Gordon McQueen, former Leeds United, Manchester United and Scotland defender. Gordon passed away at the age of 70. And this week, an inquest was held into the cause of Gordon's death, where the coroner concluded that repeated heading of the football was likely to have contributed to Gordon's brain injury. And we've been talking about what should be done. Should there be brain scans, as there are in boxing? Should there be periodic brain scans of present-day footballers to make sure that they are in a fit state physically, regards any injuries they may pick up in the game? In later life, Gordon sadly was suffering from vascular dementia and CTE. Hayley McQueen, my old chum from Sky Sports, Gordon's daughter, is in studio with Simon and myself. Hayley, what we do know is that the FA and the PFA jointly pay towards the Brain Health Fund, which provides up to £1 million a year for families affected by neurological illness in footballers. £1 million a year. What is that? Is that just scratching the surface in your view?
Probably, yeah. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. What's 1 million in football as well?
Yeah,
it's nothing. If it costs one family £100,000 over a year to look after somebody who has played the professional game, it doesn't go very far, does it? If this money were to go towards research, pile it on, pile it in. The whole looking after families, I think, is a whole other story that gets messy. I get angry about it. I get upset about it. There's a group that I'm part of, Football for Justice, campaigning for more help from this union. Right now, I'm campaigning for better brain health understanding, looking at potentially speaking to the Premier League, the FA, others, about bringing in brain scans to see if there are biomarkers in life. If this could be researched, and if they need the money from that, there's going to need to be a lot more than £1 million.
Yes. I see, Simon, lots of messages, many messages, Hayley, this morning from listeners and viewers. We're live on YouTube and what have you, saying just how well you are speaking this morning and how bravely you're speaking about your dad. Simon, the thing is, I saw one of them go through a moment ago, a message. The thing is, and it's a fact, is it not, these fellas go into football knowing what the risks are. So further down the line, why should the industry come to their rescue in any financial sense?
But they do now. The argument is not what they know now. The argument was what was known back in the day.
Right.
So we're now at a stage where it's not a secret. It's not. It should be. It should be more trumpeted, and there should be more awareness of it. But it's not a secret anymore. In the 60s and the 50s and wherever we're talking about, in the early 70s with Gordon, you're talking about an industry that probably didn't operate with the best practices, given the fact that there was information around. It wasn't something that was particularly interesting to the authorities because it then brought about a conundrum. What do we do here? Because if we start acknowledging the existence of this challenge, then we start to move ourselves into the industrial injury side of things, and that becomes a whole box of tricks that the industry won't want. So you've got two things. You've got, what is the purpose of a union? What is its purpose? It is to look after its members, not its members that are playing now, but its members per se. That's what the members pay into. Now, whether footballers should pay more into the union is my argument. I think they should. But the fact is that the broadcasters pay a lot of money in there. So the purpose of a union surely must be to ensure that its members, in all their instances, are looked after in the best possible way that they can. We know that the modern day footballer doesn't have the same requirements as footballers of the 70s and 60s because the financial rewards, even if you go down the tiers, are way, way above the average living salary or average salary in this country across other industries.
Yeah.
So it then becomes about what is the scenario going forward for best practice, and that is about being informed. That's what all you can do. You can give people a choice. Now, without wanting to be callous, I would wager you that a young Gordon McQueen, confronted with the evidence that would have been presented at the time in a certain way, which is this potentially could lead you towards challenges in life, might have not stayed back after training, but probably would have still been as robust a character, still wanted to pursue the career that he was in, and still potentially exposed to the risks. So the issue is, where does the industry step off from best practice towards the ramifications of the circumstances of an industry that in part has created this problem?
You see, what we know is we've just passed, Hayley, the 24th anniversary. Can you believe it? The 24th anniversary from the passing of former West Brom and England striker Jeff Astle. And of course, you were talking about his daughter Dawn. The first British professional footballer confirmed to have died from CTE. So, Hayley, has the progress over the last quarter of a century been too slow from the world of football since then? And do you have any faith that it will move on?
I hope so. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spoken out so openly. I would have kept it to myself and just kept my emotions to I'm putting myself very much out there. There's a lot of stuff I'm discussing that I don't feel massively comfortable about, but I'm doing it because I'm now really passionate about hoping that more change will be made. I think certainly in the last 5 years, I know it was in 2020 when these guidelines were implemented and there was banning of football, heading of a football for children and the under 12s in Scotland and England. And I think I applaud them for doing that, certainly with youngsters. And yes, they have made changes, but there's just no admission. Nobody seems to be admitting that this is a problem. They're making these changes, but they're not explaining why. Why are we doing it? Why not?
Hayley, it's been amazing and so sad in the circumstances to be talking about Gordon, your dad, like this. He's one of the few people, Simon, that would call me and I would answer the phone and say hello, like any normal person would, and all you'd hear the other end would be "Hi," and then you to talk for a fair bit. This was Gordon McQueen, who is a wonderful individual in so many different ways. Hayley, what do you want to be the lasting impact of your dad?
I don't know. It's hard for me to think right now about that because I still want people to, I don't want people to look at my dad as, oh, his death has now gone down as this and this is going to change football and the family are campaigning for, not heading in football. I'm actually not. I don't think heading should be taken out of the game. I think it would be a completely different game. We've seen games trialled where it has worked. I don't want to completely change football. I just want to change the way that players are educated about this and are looked after. And I just want to change, I guess, the PFA's stance on where they are with helping people. If somebody calls you up and asks for help, don't deny them that help. Listen to them.
Hayley, we've been listening to you and thank you so much for the time you've given us today. I was looking at pictures of you and Anna and Eddie the other night over in America. With Gordon and your mum.
I know. We have a brother. He's much forgotten. He didn't want anything to do with anything because he finds it very hard. So me and my sister are the spokespeople, and it's like, my sister gets the mention and people forget I've even got a brother. So shout out to him.
But the brother got married.
And he just got married. He's just had a baby. It was wonderful. In fact, he met his now wife pretty much the week that my dad died because he was spending a lot of time at home. He works on tour with bands. He has a great fun job and he's just never around. And we're like, oh, he's going to be single forever. That's what my dad thought. Hitting 40, still not married. And now married and a child, live really close to where my mum and my sister are, which is lovely.
Brilliant.
He's got all my dad's memorabilia in his house though. So he's nicked all that for his new pad. But yeah, my dad would have loved to have seen another grandchild come along and the fact that he's married and happy and nearer home to take care of my mum. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Hayley. We all miss Gordon.
We do. I know, every day.
Thanks so much for being with us today. Hayley McQueen with us live on talkSPORT.
I think a big round of applause. Can we have a big round of applause? It's a superstar, it's Robbie Williams.
Because, like, I had this idea about a Ryder Cup European boy bands versus American boy bands in a scrap.
Yeah, we did.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
And at this stage in the proceedings, we're joined by Sean Martin from BetMGM. We're going to look at some of the top sporting events and the odds round and about them. Sean, I notice nothing to do with the Scottish Premiership on the running order here. So I'll ask you straight, your beloved Celtic. You didn't get a win at Tynecastle, you got a draw. What's going on?
Morning, lads. Yeah, the BetMGM boys have stitched me up a wee bit there. Look, I think Celtic needed to win. They didn't. Good start to that game against Hearts at the weekend, then it descended into a pretty low quality, albeit entertaining affair with 4 goals, a red card and all that. Perfection pretty much required here on out. I think, Jim, hope a couple of signings in the next few days as well, because so far I think, it'd be fair to say, Rangers and Hearts are the sides showing that they maybe want to win this title in terms of transfer business. Funnily enough though, lads, I mean, we were looking at the betting market for it this morning. It's almost the reverse of the league table. Hearts are top, but 2 to 1/3 favourites. Rangers second in the table and second in the betting at 74. Having been what I remember telling you guys on Thursday, I thought was a far too big 5-2, given they're on a good run. And actually Celtic's still 64 favourites, even though they're third in the table, Jim. But yeah, likely a combination of the Martin O'Neill factor we've discussed, and also the perception that the club's been there, done it, and is experienced in winning. But not a lot else to justify it at the moment.
How many new additions do they need, do you think, Celtic? Sean, we might have news for you in the coming days on that, because we know Martin's having meetings on that very topic.
I mean, it is a bit late in the window. That's the thing. I think that's the principle of it. It should have been and could have been done earlier, is the thing. But they need a few. I mean, we signed a striker last week. he actually done quite well at Tynecastle, I thought. But as Martin O'Neill said at the time, one striker isn't the solution. They need a couple more than that. So
okay, we'll keep you informed. Keep you informed, Mr. Martin. Champions League tonight. Spurs, Chelsea, Newcastle amongst the teams in action. So where are you going with it?
Yeah, Matt Gibson took you through the top 8 odds yesterday. In terms of the matches themselves tonight, though, all 18 at 8 p.m. UK time, we think Liverpool and Arsenal should get the job done pretty easily. They're heavy odds on. Man City should as well in terms of winning the game against Galatasaray, but they need to do it in all likelihood by scoring a few goals as well for the top 8 picture. Really, the three big games tonight, you'd have to say, are Spurs away at Eintracht Frankfurt. Simon, you nailed your colours to the mast on that front last week and again yesterday. Tottenham 3-4 favourites, albeit missing some big players again. Over in Italy, Antonio Conte looking to spoil Chelsea's top 8 charge. Napoli need a point to make the playoffs, and in all honesty, you can see a bit of value in both sides here. Napoli at home at 11-5 is very decent, but so is Chelsea over even money, or even the draw at 5-2. And yeah, touched on this last week. Newcastle away in Paris. Last time they went there, a very controversial 1-1 draw, thanks to a last gasp penalty. Robbed some Newcastle fan colleagues of mine would and do say it's 7-1 for that scoreline tonight, but for Newcastle to just win the game, you're still getting 4-1. PSG only won one of their last 4 Champions League games, so that's more than a glimmer of hope there, in my opinion. That Newcastle game does the heavy lifting if you back all six English teams, to win tonight. It's 22-1, or if you zone in on those main 3 games that we've just spoken about, lads, it's 17-1 for Spurs, Chelsea, and Newcastle all to win.
What do you think about Newcastle's chances in Paris tonight, Danny?
Very, very slim.
Really? But this is not PSG of before.
They're getting most of the players back now. They're nearly all fit. And Newcastle's away form is poor. No, I can't see it. If they get a draw, they've done amazingly well.
You on the same page as Danny on that one, Simon?
Yeah, I think there's a challenge for them. I mean, ultimately, PSG may not have quite the same lustre as they had last year, but they're still a formidable side. And I don't see Newcastle being able to overcome that. The fascinating one for me is Chelsea, because we've got to see, we watched Liam Mousinho, and obviously he's landed relatively smoothly, but he's beaten who he should beat. They should beat Charlton in the FA Cup. They should beat Crystal Palace, an out-of-form Crystal Palace. You know, they should, on paper, beat Brentford, irrespective of how well Keith Andrews is doing. And they should beat Pathos. But Napoli and Arsenal, this is the level that you're at now, Liam.
Thing is, as well, Napoli have to win.
These are the boys that you play against. This is the measure that you're being judged against. So it'd be interesting to see how Mousinho goes up against Conte.
I fancy Chelsea tonight.
Do you?
I don't know why.
So do I. I've got a sneaking feeling for them. But anyone that beats that slob Conte for me is someone I'll admire anyway.
Slob?
Yeah, I think he's an appalling. I think his behaviour is appalling.
Jim, I would assume you'd want Napoli to win.
McNapoli.
And
with McTominay and
Gilmore.
Of course. Well, Billy's been out of the team through injury. But I don't know if he's back, but Sean,
Scots,
definitely.
No Scots in the Chelsea team, mate.
Yeah, with the Scottish influence at Napoli. Forza Napoli, don't you think, Sean?
That'll be it. Scott McTominay, 17-2 first goal scorer tonight, by the way, just in case you fancy it.
Excellent. Guys. Now, of course, with Danny in our midst, we spoke with Thomas Bjorn earlier on, so we've got to talk golf. So, Sean, talk golf.
We spoke about Dubai last week. It's San Diego for this one, Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, so a major setting. No Scottish Scheffler this week, so it actually makes for a pretty attractive market, really. A couple of your favourites teeing it up, Danny, including Xander Schauffele, who's the 12-1 favourite. Plenty of eyes on Brooks Koepka as well after his move back from Liv. I heard you mention that actually earlier on to Thomas Bjorn. He's 60-1. I was speaking to Charlie Robertson this morning. He was, as usual, not shy and giving me some unsolicited tips. He's big into Sam Stevens at 40s and Jason Day at 28-1. Both played well last week and have a bit of history here, but just wondering where your head's at with it, Danny. Who you looking at with no Scotty in the field?
Well, I was going to give you Jason Day because he's won there twice before and he's had a second and a third, and he came joint second last week playing tremendous golf. So that would be, what would he be, 20, 25, something like that?
28-1 to win it, and then you're talking 11-2 top 5, 10-3 top 10. So there's quite a bit of value there.
Maybe a big outsider would be Billy Horschel. He's had some good results there over the year, and he'll be what, 80s, maybe
Okay, Danny, thank you for that. In the world of boxing, Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, and Josh Kelly, which is easy to say, but not so easy, is Bakram Murtazaliev. But what are you thinking, Sean?
I might come back to you to rely on you to pronounce it for me. It was going to be 3 fights I wanted to mention here, but obviously Adam Azim, the one at the copper box, got called off.
Right.
So just the 2, but a very decent 2 to touch on nonetheless. First off, Josh Kelly going for the IBF light middleweight title in Newcastle against unbeaten, what was it, Bakram Murtazaliev? The big Russian. It's just not bad.
Through that. Well done, Sean. Yeah. Well done.
The big Russian, not fought since October 2024. Never fought in the UK, but goes in 8-25 favourite. Kelly 13-5 on a 7-1 streak. Heard them on the show actually with you guys the other week. Always good to see a Mackham venture into Newcastle as well, of course. And then across the pond, the biggest fight of the weekend for me anyway. MSG. Teofimo Lopez against Shakur Stevenson, WBO light welterweight title. Stevenson unbeaten, moving up to go for a world title at 4th weight. He looked bloody good against William Zepeda in July, I've got to say, and is actually 8-25 favourite as well for this, meaning Lopez is almost 2.5 to 1 to win. I suppose, to me anyway, it depends which Teofimo Lopez turns up really, but Simon, I know you hate doing this, I know you hate it, but nonetheless, I'm curious. Those 2 fights, how do you see them both ending?
We're all curious, Sean. Simon?
I fancy Teofimo Lopez. I think if he puts on a performance in the way, I think losing to George Kambosos Jr. was actually the making of him, because I think he came back and people felt that was the end of him, and he's come back and he beat Josh Taylor. He totally diminished Arnold Barbosa Jr.
Yeah.
So I think if he can drag Shakur Stevenson into a fight, which is what he's trying to do. If you look at all the presses, you look at all the face-offs, he's trying to drag him into a fight, trying to taunt him and goad him because he wants him to stand in front of him. And if he can do that, I think Teofimo Lopez will win. Conventional wisdom, if you listen to Paulie Malignaggi, if you listen to Johnny Nelson, and most of them, Spencer, they all think it's all day Shakur Stevenson. Myself and Duke McKenzie have gone down the route of Teofimo Lopez. And Josh Kelly, listen, I think Josh has got a great chance. He fancies this fight. He really does. He's not worried about how hard this guy hits. I think he's natural at 154 now. He hasn't got the problem he's had in the previous incarnation making the weight. He carries his power well there, and Josh really fancies this. He fancies so much. He's playing paddle last week with me on the tennis court a week before fight. So I fancy Josh for this, and I really hope he does well and emulates to some extent what or equals what Dalton Smith has done, which is beat somebody that other people think he can't.
Seeing as though we all want Josh to win, then why didn't you just back the other guy? Because we know then he'd win.
Oh, I do back people. I back Dalton Smith to beat Sabriel Mateus.
Oh, fair
and
enough.
He won.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Lopez win, Kelly win, 11-1, Simon, and I'll have a bit of that. I really hope that is what happens.
That'd be good. Josh Kelly, be great if he can come through, as you rightly say. Sean, thank you very much indeed. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, begambleaware.org. It is Wednesday morning, not much left of it. Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. Nick Ellaby's coming your way at 12 noon with the latest news headlines. Before we get there, Simon, we're not quite talking about the Gaza dentist chair, but alcohol is involved, or at least a simulation of it. Let me explain what I'm talking about. In the world of cricket, England one-day international captain Harry Brook celebrated his match-winning 100 against Sri Lanka by imitating a beer smash made famous by WWE wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin. Dan, do you remember what he used to do in the ring with the 2 cans of beer and then drench himself with the beer and then down the 2 cans? But he didn't do it. He went through the motions of doing it. But of course, this comes after reports of a drinking culture amongst the England team during the Ashes. And of course, maybe not the best time for Harry to do anything alcohol related. But Joe Root didn't think like that. This is what he thought of Brook doing his Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonation.
I think you can work it out, can you, if you've ever watched wrestling. But I think that's his way of doing that, really, is trying to show that he wants that approval from the group is through humour. And I think that's another area of why I think he's going to be a great leader, is because he has that side to him as well. I thought, as I mentioned earlier, he showed his calmness and his clarity under pressure, but he also showed humour as well in doing that. And hopefully it's received in the right way, because there's definitely no malice behind it or anything other than him just trying to have a bit of a joke with his teammates.
What do you think?
What do you think of that? I thought that was a load of old fanny. But the fact of the matter is which is the best way to do it? The thing with Harry Brook is he's a very capable player, but he's also a captain. And getting himself caught up in a circumstance in Australia gave the media an excuse, or New Zealand when he was there. And so, is it the right thing for... It's one thing Gascoigne doing it. Gascoigne was an outlier. He was a rebel, and that's what he did. The captain of the team perhaps has to behave slightly differently. If you need to gain respect from your colleagues by having the ability to send yourself up, then maybe that's the culture they work in. Yesterday we were watching rugby players doing a dance for TikTok. So who knows? You and I sit here ruminating about these things, looking at it, scratching our head and going, well, what the hell's that about? He batted well. He did well.
Maybe the best way to disarm criticism is to play well. Is make fun of it, maybe.
To some extent,
He had played well. But he was man of the match.
After the Lord Mayor's show.
Well, it depends what
you made a match-winning 100. He had played well.
It depends what you're trying to achieve, because if you do... I remember, not to superimpose myself on this, there was always this thing about me being tanned at Palace. And so I came out with this idea, the future's bright, the chairman's orange, right? Because I thought it would be funny, and it would get away from it, and it made it worse. Everyone who turned up the game sprayed themselves orange and went to every single game as orange, and I didn't get away from it. So the more you highlight these things as things you've done in the past, that actually you can't get away from it. So the best thing to do is leave it alone and just play well, and they'll forget.
Yeah. It wasn't fake tan, that, was it?
No, it wasn't. I lived in Spain. There was a clue there.
Glad we sorted that out. We are right on 12 noon this Thursday lunchtime, and that means the latest bulletin with Nick Ellaby.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. Has Arne Slot made his uphill task at Liverpool even harder by saying this?
I think it's going to be really difficult to quiet the outside noise with the position we are in the league.
Slot says every disappointing result means the noise comes back. talkSPORT's Danny Murphy's told White and Jordan anything less than top 4 is a failure for Liverpool this season.
With the money they've spent and with the success of last season, not building on it, if you don't win something, you've failed. Now, you can fail gloriously, and that will be accepted. You can lose an FA Cup final or a Champions League semi-final on penalties, or, you can be there or thereabouts.
Tonight, a win at home to Karabakh will see Liverpool make the Champions League top 8. Newcastle need to beat PSG in Paris to be sure. Former manager Steve Bruce says Eddie Howe's side are doing as well as they can, considering PSR's holding them back.
They're really, as I said about the kid who went to Notts Forest, Elliot Anderson, they had to sell.
Newcastle go to PSG live on talkSPORT. Build up from 7 p.m. Napoli versus Chelsea's live on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Nottingham Forest keeper John Victor's out for the rest of the season. That's with a knee injury. West Ham have signed winger Adama Traore from Fulham. Traore is now reunited with Nuno Espirito Santo. Ireland centre Bundy Aki's been left out of their Six Nations training camp in Portugal for disciplinary reasons. Aki allegedly confronted referees after Connacht's defeat to Leicester last weekend. And France prop Winnie Antonio has had to retire from rugby union after suffering a heart attack.
Talk Sport with QuickFit. Whatever the winter weather, Bridgestone Turanza All Season 6 tyres. Guaranteed for 25,000 miles. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Sunny spells for most of us, but the north and east of Scotland seeing patchy rain and mountain snow. Northern Ireland, South West Wales and South West England breezy with showers.
Good afternoon, everybody. 3 minutes past 12 noon. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Huge night of Champions League football, and of course English clubs well and truly in the thick of it. Arsenal against Kairat, Eintracht Frankfurt up against Tottenham. We've got Liverpool, Danny's former club, against Karabag of Azerbaijan, Manchester City, Galatasaray, PSG against Newcastle United, and Chelsea are over in Italy, in Naples to be precise, to take on Scott McTominay's Napoli. And we look forward to that hugely. And of course, for Liam Rossignol, he's getting used to the idea. He's getting used to life as the main man, the head coach at Chelsea. So it's a big one for Chelsea, this one, going in against Napoli. And it would be a major scalp for Chelsea and Rossignol if they can take Napoli tonight and leave there with all 3 points. We're going to speak to Italian football expert Daniele Fisichella in a moment. But this is Liam going into this.
No, I think for a club of Chelsea's stature, every year that goes by and you don't win a title or win silverware, you want to win in every year that you're competing in competitions. The difficulty for any club is there's a lot of very, very good teams who are competing. The aim for us long term and in the short term as well is to compete for trophies. Whether it's too long or not, that comes down to the team, that comes down to the coaching and the infrastructure of the club.
It's an interesting one in many ways tonight because Chelsea go in against Napoli, of course, these days managed by Antonio Conte. And Chelsea haven't won the Premier League since the 2016-17 title was claimed. And who was there to do it? Antonio Conte. Daniele Fisichella, Italian football expert, joins us live tonight. So many different aspects to this one, Daniele. It's a mouth-watering tie, isn't it?
It's a do or die for Napoli because, of course, they need to win to hope to stay in the playoff, which would still be an underwhelming result for the Italian champions who have started the season with other expectations and with a bolstered squad. But unfortunately for Conte and Napoli, the fact of competing in two competitions has proven once again, especially for Antonio Conte, a bit of a difficult sticking points in his career. He's always had troubles competing in the league and the Champions League. Going out tonight will be a major disappointment for them. But of course, for Chelsea will be key to advance to the top 8. So, yeah, Napoli need probably the best performance of the season in Europe tonight in order to make it.
Daniele, how is Antonio Conte, one-time great player, of course, but now a top coach in football? How is he viewed in Italy by you Italians? I mean, the man to my left, Mr. Jordan, a short time ago called him a slob.
In Italy, no job is too big for Antonio Conte, who has won 3 Scudetto with Juventus and then 2 after leaving Chelsea, 1 with Inter and 1 with Napoli. And last season, he proved exactly that of course, he won the Scudetto with a team that was not the strongest, aided by the fact that they didn't have to play in Europe, but toppled Inter, the Champions League finalist, in the last game of the season. And he showed that Conte's character, Conte's mentality, his regime of training. Of course, he's a very, very strict manager as well. He works in certain scenarios. And of course, in Italy, he's an excellent coach. This season, things perhaps haven't turned out as well as he wanted to. Napoli have been also unlucky with some injuries, but Conte's strategies of keeping always the tension very high, of keeping always the level of the argument within and outside the team, it is paying dividends. He is made for Italian football, of course, and he has proven it once again.
How do you think he's going to set up tonight? Because obviously we know his style, how he was here when he managed here, but they've got to win this game, haven't they? Do you expect him to still set up the Conte way, or will he be a bit braver, do you think? Will we see a more forward-thinking, high-energy pressing game from Conte's team?
Well, unfortunately, he is missing some of the key players up front, David Neres above all, but also Matteo Politano, which might stop Napoli's setup for being extremely brave and extremely pressing. But Conte this season and last season has also showed that he's able to change the skin of his teams in due course. So Napoli, yes, last season started in a very Conte fashion with a 3-man at the back and being less prone to take risks, but have evolved ever since. And Conte has deployed 3 strikers or 1 strikers and 2 attacking wingers, which probably would have been his preferred system this evening had he not missed a few key players. I think they will go for it, aided, of course, by the fact that they play at home. So obviously the environment is going to be for them. Ultimately, Conte knows that they cannot take too many risks against a team, Chelsea, that maybe can impose a faster rhythm, where of course Napoli maybe might struggle, but in the middle of the park they are physical and they are experienced, so definitely they could match them there.
Daniele, on a serious note, a lot of Chelsea fans will be on the move to this game at the moment, and many of them, and they will get in touch, many of them will be listening to you and I and Danny and Simon live on talkSPORT this lunchtime. The reason I mention that, Chelsea fans have been told to, quotes, take extreme caution in Naples tonight. 2 fans have already been treated in hospital, and the fans, Daniele, have actually been asked, don't walk around Naples today. Avoid wearing colours or emblems that could identify you as Chelsea supporters. I mean, what's the point in them going?
Well, hopefully what happened last night, the incident with 2 Chelsea fans, although the Italian authorities only talk about 1 Chelsea fan who's been hospitalized, hopefully they won't happen again. Yes, it is a risky environment. There is no denying, and it's not the first time that fans have been attacked or have clashed with Napoli fans, fans from other teams. Last night, unfortunately, the victim of this stabbing is a 22-year-old male who is the victim of the classic, what we call in Italy, puncicata. It's called little puncture. Is a mark from other ultras where a person gets stabbed in the backside, allegedly with a screwdriver. The man has already been discharged from hospital, so it's not a life-threatening injury, but it's a sort of a mark that ultras leave on other fans group. I think, obviously, these are things that we will not want to report on that, of course. Unfortunately, the fact that these 2 clubs haven't faced each other in Europe for over 13 years makes the situation more difficult, because again, in the subculture of organized fans, but let me tell, probably this is more organized crime in Italy rather than organized fans.
Yeah.
Leaving a mark on other teams' fans is a sort of a code of honor, and it has happened before. It has happened to a couple of Brighton fans who traveled to Rome a couple of seasons ago. It has happened to Newcastle fans traveling to Milan. Unfortunately, the recommendation from the Italian authorities not travel with club's colors seems reasonable, although in these days and age, you will not want to hear that. But of course, nobody wants to make themselves a target. But I'm sure on the day of the game, in daylight, it's less likely to happen. It happened last night in a central square of Napoli, where apparently, yes, there's been a sort of a violent flash mob with the Napoli fans then dispersing after the stabbing.
Isn't it incredible, Simon? They regard it as a code of honour, as Daniele said.
Well, as Daniele said, it's a subculture that moves into criminality rather than fervent support. So the less time we spend talking about these sort of people, I think the better it is, because, but you know, they want a light shined on, open a fridge door.
Yeah. Yeah. On the football side, I think this could be a very interesting tie tonight. It might end up, Daniele, I don't know if you agree with me, being one of the ties of the night.
Yes, alongside the Newcastle PSG, it is one of the ties with everything at stake. So it will be a night of permutations, calculations. I would expect Napoli and Chelsea's position in the table to change multiple times during the night. It will be key who's going to take the lead. If Napoli score first and settle the nerves, of course, they will have more chances of advancing in the top 24. And then it will be Chelsea who will have to chase the game, which obviously is a situation that Napoli would prefer. They can, of course, exploit them on the counter-attack. The longer it stays 0-0, with the other results across Europe changing, the more tense it will be. Funnily enough, nobody needs a draw, because I think with a draw, Chelsea are probably out of the top 8, and with a draw, Napoli are almost mathematically out of the top 24. Look out for Romelu Lukaku. He's not quite fit, but Conte said he's got 10-15 minutes in the legs. I think regardless of the outcome of the game, we'll probably see him coming on and see if he can leave a positive mark tonight.
Absolutely brilliant. Daniele, thank you so much as always. Grazie mille. Daniele Fisichella joining us live. Simon, we've all got individuals that listen to the show, and one or two of them latch on to us. There's a fellow Shaz who seems to have it in for you. Although I don't know, does he make a relevant point here? Jim, just wanted to say that I think it's very hypocritical of Simon to call Conte a slob, just because he speaks his mind. All Simon ever does on your show is speak his mind. So does that make Simon a bit of a slob as well?
If Shaz,
I don't know, Shaz. Let's put that to Simon, Shaz.
Listen, it's a terminology that I deploy in terms of what an ownership relationship will be like with him. Clearly, he's a good coach, no doubt about it. Sure. But he's one of those coaches that I think most owners would have to endure rather than enjoy.
He's a winner, though. He is a winner.
To a point, he is. I mean, he didn't win at Tottenham. What he did was created a car crash and then blamed everybody else for it. Did nothing to improve the environment, and then blamed everybody else in the culture of the football.
He thinks he's the most important man in the building, doesn't he?
He does.
That's his.
He's the sort of guy you could have played for.
Not sure I'd have got on with him. He's a bit of a tyrant, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think he's the type you can go up to and ask, compromise or have a conversation with. My understanding with the players who played under him was that it was his way or the highway. That doesn't usually work for me.
Last Chelsea head coach to win the Premier League title, though. So he's got what it takes to be a winner.
Undoubtedly, but there's lots of reasons behind that. You can't just eliminate the fact that the competition in Man City have been an elite football club. You can't eliminate the fact that the football club went through a crisis of ownership. So all those come into play. But as I say, he's one of those that you have to endure as an owner, not enjoy. So from my terminology, that makes it slightly slobby, because really and truly you should be on the same page. Managers should be given, within reason, what they want, not everything they want, because it doesn't work that way.
Who was the manager you had to endure the most while you were at Palace?
Dowie.
I thought that might be the answer.
Shaz, I asked, and he gave you an answer. It's 12:15 this Wednesday lunchtime.
big round of applause? Can we have a big round of applause? It's a superstar, it's Robbie Williams.
Because, like, I had this idea about a Ryder Cup European boy bands versus American boy bands in a scrap.
Yeah, we did.
As I've been saying, many English clubs involved in the real business end of the Champions League tonight. One of them being Pep Guardiola's Manchester City up against Turkish club Galatasaray. And of course, we'll be right across all of those matches tonight, live on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2. But here's the thing about Pep. Pep Guardiola has issued an apology for his reaction to debutant Premier League referee Farai Halam at the weekend. Let me just explain a bit more about this. Guardiola was unhappy after his side were not awarded a penalty kick. City winger Marmoush attempted to lift the ball over the Wolves defender Mosquera, but the ball struck Mosquera's outstretched hand, but the referee gave no penalty. But then Darren England, who was on VAR duty that day, sent the referee, Hallam, debutant referee, to the pitchside monitor. So Hallam went to the monitor, then turned around and said, no, I stick to my original decision.
Well done.
No penalty. Well, there you go, Danny, and I'm glad you've said that. Guardiola went onto the pitch at full time to remonstrate, and then post-match, he gave a fairly old sarcastic assessment of the ref's performance.
They were despite of them, so we did it at the 9 years, 6 Premier Leagues that they have done. So it's why don't have the players, you know. The referee make his debut. Now everybody will know him. It's the first time I think he will go to the TV and is allowed normally positioning the arms. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Howard Webb tomorrow is going to appear in the media to explanation why it's not penalty, what they have done against United. Like it's the first time have done it because the situation was a little bit doubts, right? That's right, Jeremy could not play in Norway for the action from Dalot. So, but it's okay. So, I'm waiting tomorrow. Don't wait on Wednesday, have Champions League, we are busy. Howard Webb come tomorrow and explain why it's not penalty.
So you might pick up there, he was talking about Farai Halam, debutant referee, and of course now everybody knows him. So going into this game against Galatasaray tonight, he was picked up on that, and he was asked if he wanted to issue an apology.
They defend the statements always, they defend each other, completely understandable. So they have to do that. But at the same time, they had to defend my club. How many times I criticized the referees last season was the worst season in 10 years? How many times? That's true, because it never happened. Against United, what happened? You were there. After the United game, what was my comments against the referees? Tell me.
What I'm saying is obviously
I was incredibly respectful in 9-10 years with the referees, never ever. With the defeats and everything, never comment absolutely anything. When I don't have arguments to do it, that's the only reason why. But I know they defend each other, pundits and everyone defenders. You know, I understand completely, but I defend my players, I defend my club. That's why I owe them my club and my people and not what happened and that.
I was referencing particularly the comments about a referee making his Premier League debut and you implying that he was making...
If he fell offend, I'm so sorry. I know it's not easy for a game debut and it's happened. So I know they are so sensitive, everyone. Yeah, I know that.
So it's not much of an apology, Danny, is it?
Jimmy's one of many managers who think there's a conspiracy against their club, which is just so naive and wrong. The amazing thing about this particular outburst was the fact that it was done in a game they'd won comfortably. And it was a 50-50, you know, one of those, you might think it's handball, I don't, because he was right next to him, you know, can't get out, you don't want to see penalties for that anyway. And the credit should go to the official, because very few have the gumption to actually go to the screen when they've been told to go over and say, no, I'm all right with my decision. So well done to him first and foremost. I do have some sympathy with the Dallo one and the derby last week, but ultimately, have a look at your team's performance. They weren't at it. Irrelevant of whether he got sent off or not. And this thing, the way they word it, and Guardiola's not on his own. There's been many of this season. Start talking about referee decisions like they must sit together in a huddle and go, tell you what, let's go for Man City this year. And yes, he might be right. He isn't a perpetual offender in terms of going after refs, but you don't have to be when you're winning leagues every year and getting to the semi-final and finals of Champions League. You're not going to be as critical, are you? But
so what is it that we see in him when he does that? Is it paranoia?
Feels him. It feels him. Everybody has to have a motivation.
But be better.
Well, he has dominated English football. I don't think Alex Ferguson was Prince Charming. I think there's a trait in these managers, certainly when they're dealing with the media, that bristle and respond in a way that probably they look back and think about it in a more calm, collected fashion, they may not respond that way. But I think it's fuel for him. I think his initial observations on the referee were insulting. I do. I think they're insulting. I think they're demeaning, and they're sort of holier than thou, sort of beneath him sort of attitude towards a referee making his debut. And his apology is not an apology. I'm sorry if he's offended. No, you're sorry that you offended him. He wasn't offended. You set out to offend him. You set out to say that he's a debutant who clearly wants to make his name off the back of currency from people like me and teams like mine. So I understand why he does it. I don't think it's I think it's a bit graceless. But then you show me the managers that are full of grace, and then I'll show you the ones that don't win very much.
Eddie Howe.
They don't win anything. One's a League Cup. Okay, we can go out and celebrate that for the rest of our lives.
Your pal Conte. He's a winner,
but he's graceless.
Yeah, he goes after refs.
My point is,
I don't think there's a correlation in what you're saying. Even with that, I don't think necessarily. You can get managers successful who conduct themselves in the right way, and vice versa. You know, you're right. Fergie was as bad as any of them. I agree with you. But ultimately, he doesn't need to do that.
No, exactly. And it doesn't show him up in a good light. And he hasn't been shown up in a good light by this. Former referee Graham Scott in his Telegraph column, and Graham Scott was the fourth official at Brighton in May 2021 when City clinched the title. And he says it was in the final few seconds of Manchester City's penultimate match of the season. I was at that, actually. And he says, by which time they were already champions. So they'd won it. And he says, Pep comes up and says, we have won the league and there is nothing you can do about it. In hushed tone.
That, in isolation, that sounds pretty stupid thing to do, isn't it? But ultimately, if you've been in here, how long's he been here? Nearly a decade, maybe? You're going to have isolated instances where you cross the line. You do it as a player, you do it as a coach, and you could pick on things. I just think, looking at it from my perspective, working with people like Houllier, Roy Hodgson, who you'd never really see that, and I quite like that as a player and looking up as a leader. The thing is, Simon's right in many ways. It doesn't really matter because of the success he's had, and it kind of makes him who he is. He does live on the edge. He is emotional. We see him with the players after games sometimes, where he's, dissecting something they didn't do
on the pitch.
Yeah, when they've won 4-0 and he's berating one of his own players or even an opposing player sometimes. He's telling them how well they've done, and so he is a bit mad.
Yeah,
but that's kind of the genius in him. I just think when you've been so successful and you're talked about with such positivity and eulogized about, then he can just chill a little.
But he didn't. But also, he didn't ask for that question, did he?
No.
So let's wind it back and look at the culpability of the outcome that we wanted from it. We got what the media asked him a question: do you want to apologise to the referee? If he wanted to apologise, he didn't need to be provoked by the media to do it, did he? So what he came back with was a response. So we poke and prod and ask these people questions, and then we judge them by their answers. And in this instance, if he wanted, I think he's a grown man. If he wants to make an apology to a referee, he doesn't need a segment of the media.
I'm talking more about the first, the one after the Wolves. Not so much the.
But I personally think it's just fuel. I think it's a currency that gets him up, wants the world to be fighting against. He wants to fight against the world. He wants something to push up against. And if he can't push up against his own players...
Is that acceptable?
But it's what defines certain aspects of people's character.
I mean, he's not going to be bothered later on in life when somebody says, God, remember you were at City, but at times you were a pain in the butt.
Well, who's the arbiter of what's acceptable and what's not? Who's that arbiter? Who defines what's acceptable?
Do you think it's acceptable?
I don't care about it either which way. It gives me an opportunity to look at managers. I think managers are over-lionised. I think they are over-exalted. I think they're egotistical because they're built up to be egotistical by the product of the environment that they're in. We're constantly being told how wonderful they are, how they walk on water by football fans and football media. And so what do you expect? What do you expect? You pay a man £15 million a year and you bow at his feet. You know, Noel Gallagher can't go out on stage without carrying a life-size caricature of Guardiola every time Oasis play, right? So this is the kind of space that they live in. So then what do you expect? You expect them to be in touch with reality. No. They live in an industry that's not in touch with reality. They live in an industry that's insulated from reality. They're lionised. They're told that they're wonderful even when they're not. And even when they fail, they get paid.
So it's par for the course.
So it's par for the... What do you expect? A rounded individual then in that space?
I think you should expect to be asked a question.
You did bring up Eddie Howe, who's a great example of somebody who does keep himself together.
And that's why he's liked so much. But when Eddie Howe wins something, then really wins something rather than a League Cup, with all due respect to that, we'll see if Eddie changes. I hope he doesn't. I don't think he will. I think he's cut from different cloth.
Closer to home with Martin, and you'll say it.
Martin was spiky.
There's a guy
Martin's a bit of a
everything.
one. Martin's a bit of a one. He sat in the studio telling us about his tantrums with Randy Lerner and looking back on it thinking, actually, because I didn't get what I want all the time. Okay, so did you have a relationship with the manager? Yes, but he should have trusted me. The owner should have trusted me. So shouldn't you trust the owner then? So when the owner says yes all the time, you've got a good relationship. When the owner says no, you don't trust him, but he's got to trust you in perpetuity. Well, when you put it like that, yes.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's just the sarcastic area that he seems to go into, Pep.
But it's directed at the media.
I mean,
honestly, I think his attitude is directed at the media.
Yeah, he doesn't like the media.
He doesn't like the media. He doesn't
that's fine.
Because there's no honesty behind the questions. There's no one's interested in the answer. They want their headline. They don't want to dissect the answer.
No, we're interested in the answer.
You want the headline.
For sure,
you want the headline.
So it's the media's fault then.
We want to know if he felt himself that he went a bit far at the weekend. Anyway, that's just us in the media. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, the near perfect trio with you live on talkSPORT.
Has Arne Slot made his job more difficult by saying it's not easy to quieten down the outside noise around Liverpool?
Even if we win a few games, every loss or every disappointing result will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did.
Liverpool's Premier League form is a cause for concern, but talkSPORT's Adrian Durham says they should cruise into the Champions League's top 8.
It's just what impacts Arne Slot's press conference might or might not have, not just on the players, but on the fans at Anfield this evening.
Liverpool host Qarabag this evening. We've got Napoli v Chelsea live on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Ahead of the game, Chelsea fans are warned not to walk around Naples in club colours after 2 fans were taken to hospital following an incident. Meanwhile, Liam Rosenior has shut down those Cole Palmer to Man United rumours.
He loves being here and he wants to be a Chelsea player. You can't stop speculation, but some speculation is so far from the truth, there's no point having a discussion about it.
Newcastle also need a win to avoid Champions League playoffs. They're at PSG live on talkSPORT from 7 p.m. Elsewhere, a win for Spurs in Frankfurt would see them through. Man City need other results to go their way. And at the Australian Open tennis, Novak Djokovic says he was on his way home 2 sets down to Lorenzo Mazzetti. But the Italian retired injured, giving Djokovic an easy pass into the semis.
Transfer window update on talkSPORT with Intuit QuickBooks. Tackle your self-assessment with Intuit QuickBooks. Search QuickBooks to find out more.
It's that time. Excuse me. We're going to get an update in the transfer market, and Alex Crook is going to provide that to us. In touch with us, of course, this lunchtime with Intuit QuickBooks. Search QuickBooks and you will find out more. I want to find out more about who's doing what now in the transfer market, Alex. Let's start with Douglas Luiz. What's going on with him?
Good afternoon. Yeah, this one seems to be developing at a rapid pace. We heard over the weekend there was interest from Chelsea in terms of taking over his loan at Nottingham Forest. He's a Juventus player, of course. Aston Villa, his former club, that move is a done deal. I understand it's going to be a loan until the end of the season with a permanent buy option, only of around about 25 million euros, so significantly less than the 40-odd million that Villa sold him to Juventus for, and it's that extra body in midfield because they've lost Boubacar Kamara for the rest of the season. Your man John McGinn is going to be out for weeks as well, and Yuri Tillemans is facing a couple of months on the sideline. So suddenly, where Villa look really strong in the middle of the park, they look a bit depleted.
Interesting, Danny.
I like him. He's technically very good, confident on the ball. He's been there before, so he'll fit in easily. He'll know loads of the boys, which makes life so much easier when you're moving at this stage of when you're going into a fresh group of lads in January. It's tough.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. Did you say Tielemans was out for a couple of months then?
Yeah, 8 weeks I think is the latest.
That is a blow because he's been terrific. No, I think he'll go. I think he'll go straight in and play because he's not unfit. He's had a few games, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Recently, so I think that's a clever bit of business.
Anything good on this lunchtime at West Ham, Alex, that we should know about?
Plenty. It's been a busy window down at the London Stadium. We wondered if Nuno Espirito Santo would still be the manager come the end of the window, but to their credit, the board, who obviously aren't always universally popular West Ham fans, are backing their manager. They've signed a couple of forwards already for the best part of £50 million. Adama Traore is now a West Ham player. That's a £2 million deal from Fulham. Initially, he'll sign a contract until the end of the season with the option of an extension come the summer, a player that Nuno knows well from his time at Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're trying to sign Antonin Kinski, the goalkeeper from Tottenham. That's an area I think that Nuno's been concerned about since he came into the football club. And there's talk of Axel Disasi coming in on loan from Chelsea as well. They've got 2 domestic loan spots now because Igor has gone back to Brighton, so they could sign both Kinski and Disasi between now and Monday night.
You've got to give Sullivan his due, Simon. He gets in about it every transfer window. They're always trying to do business to get bodies into the building, are they not?
You want tickets this week or something?
No. I'm fine for tickets, thanks. But
I don't think it's the fact they're in for players and getting people in the building. I think it's the lack of quality they bring in and the wrong choices they make that the West Ham fans are probably most frustrated by. Because
they're in a relegation battle, Dan, and they're trying to get out of it.
They've signed 84 strikers in about 5 years, and none of them have worked, have they?
Yeah, unlike his old lot, they're trying to sell Mateta. They're just having a fire sale.
They're selling Paqueta.
Who? West Ham. Yeah. Well,
what are you on about there?
There are reasons for that. Anyway, let's move on. Raheem Sterling. I remember him. So what's next for him, Alex?
Well, it wouldn't be unlike Raheem Sterling to pop up on deadline day, would it? I remember a couple of years ago, Jim, when he made his move to Arsenal, literally minutes before the window closed. The information I had yesterday was that options were pretty thin on the ground for Raheem Sterling. West Ham wanted to take him on loan earlier in the window, but he wasn't keen to make that move. He's looking for a permanent transfer. Fulham and Marco Silva have historic interest, but they're all in for Oscar Bob, so difficult to see where Sterling fits in there. I wonder if Crystal Palace could make a play for Raheem Sterling, because it's well known that he wants to stay in London. If he doesn't get a move between now and 7 o'clock on Monday when the window closes, the noise coming out of Chelsea is they may have to sit down and look at potentially paying up his contract, which is going to cost a few quid because he's got 18 months left on his deal and he's earning in excess of £300,000 a week.
Oof.
Oh, lucky boy.
Lucky lad.
Palace would suit. They need numbers. He's fit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could see that.
So Simon shaking his head. He's only 31, Raheem Sterling. He turned 31 in December. I think because he's been around for so long, we see him as a veteran, but surely he still has something to offer.
Yeah, definitely.
He seems highly motivated.
But on a serious note, Danny, what has happened? You played the game at the highest level. He scored a goal, and it was a fluke at Wembley in a charity game. But you've done a lot at this level, Danny. What has happened to a lad like Raheem that he goes from there to there?
Well, I think it's hard to be categoric with a view on someone you don't know what's going on completely. But I mean, he went to Chelsea with, I'm sure, best intention, and I actually thought it was a decent sign at the time because of how well he'd done at City. And he struggled, and his confidence dropped. Different changes in managers didn't seem to fancy him. And then he's in this position where he's earning so much money that he won't sacrifice that to go and play somewhere else, which is down to him. So he's decided the best part of 18 months now of his career he's written off because he doesn't want to sacrifice that money, and that's fair enough. It's up to him. It's his choice. Not what I'd do, because I love playing. And when I wasn't playing, it affected me.
Yeah.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Personality.
I think there is a
personality. Sorry, Alex. We're just talking about Danny's personality there.
As well. He wants to stay in London. The family are settled in London.
Kids.
The kids are happy at their school.
Yeah, but your kids are there.
Your
kids are yeah. Look, everyone's different. He needs to play, and I think depending on what percentage Palace are prepared to pay of his wage or whatever it may be, just go and get yourself playing.
Oh, Alex,
he can play Premier League
yet as well. Did you say he's 31, Alex? Yeah. He's got years ahead of him.
Turned 31 in December.
If you're Bully or Bally Simon at Chelsea, are you working on a contract termination? Because he's earning a fortune.
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? And that's the model that subsequently they don't want anymore, which was the model that brought Raheem Sterling in on ridiculous salaries.
What is that? 300 over 18 months. 300.
What is it? It's about 22.5 million, isn't it? If you look at it, he got bombed at City.
Sterling was their first signing.
He got bombed at City. He's been bombed at Chelsea. He's got bombed at Arsenal. What's the common denominator? Raheem Sterling. Why would Crystal Palace want to sign a player that doesn't want to lift a leg, would rather sit there? I guarantee you wouldn't be so concerned about playing in London or living in London or working in London if someone came and offered him £500 a week.
Well, Saudi, you mean? He didn't get bombed at City. Let's just get that right.
He did. He was constantly in and out of the side with Guardiola. He was not a constant, and they got him out the door.
Yeah, but whilst we were making this big noise,
stock
was high.
They were making big noise about him for England, and he wasn't a regular. And there was always the headlines about why he's not getting patronised the way he should be at Man City because he's a young English player.
You can't deny he was a winner at Manchester City.
He was part of a winning team.
Yeah,
he had some really good years there, and for 2 or 3 years he was England's best player. Let's not forget that.
Alex, why are there still so many stories floating about Cole Palmer?
Well, I think this stems from a comment piece in one of the tabloid papers, a sort of deep dive into life at Chelsea, in which it was mentioned that Cole Palmer maybe isn't completely settled in London, feels a bit homesick and hankering for a return to the Northwest. Chelsea have made it pretty clear in the last 24 hours. Cole Palmer is, quotes, untouchable. He's one player that, despite their model of buying young players and then selling for profit, they're not willing to cash in on. And you can understand it, because I don't think we've seen the best Cole Palmer this season. I don't think he's ever really been fully fit, to be honest, since the fact that they're having to manage his minutes. But when he is fit and firing, I think he is their best player, certainly going forward.
Yeah. Let's touch on Bournemouth. Still doing business. Mr. Foley has got the checkbook out.
He has, and obviously they've been a selling club in the last couple of windows, particularly last summer. They've lost Antoine Semenyo in this window, replaced him with Ryan, a 19-year-old Brazilian winger coming in from Vasco da Gama. We broke the news yesterday. There's a release clause in his contract, wait for it, 100 million euros. A 19-year-old has that release clause in his contract at Bournemouth. Just shows you where the game is going and also how highly they think he could become in the future. They're also looking to bring in a winger from Inter Milan, Luis Henrique. That will be a loan deal with the option of a permanent transfer of around about £18 million.
Crookie, can I just ask you what's going on with your hair? There's a lot of product in there today.
Do you know what? I've just jumped out of the shower, actually, Danny. I did a 5K.
Oh, did you?
27 minutes, and then I just had a quick shower and jumped straight out to speak to you.
What'd you do, on a bike?
Well done, Alex. You're looking great.
Someone's back,
more close to me, unfortunately for me, is Simon. What were you looking at me like
I
that
don't see
for?
how Alex gets away of characterising Bournemouth as a selling club. Why are they selling club? Because someone triggers a release clause on Semenyo. And why are they selling club? Because players like Kirkes want to go and play for Liverpool and ultimately suggest to the club that they want to leave.
Well, I think it's just a term of phrase when someone sells a lot of players.
But it's not. But it's a term. It's a term of phrase that suggests that the club's got an ambition underneath it. If you're a selling club, it's because you don't want to maintain the aspects of opportunity that are presented by the best players that you've got, and that's not true.
Alex, come in and defend yourself against old Lippy here.
Well, listen, Bill Foley told me that he didn't want to be a selling club. He wanted it to be a club where players came and laid down roots, but that hasn't really happened, is it? And listen, it's not detrimental. If you're Bournemouth and you're selling players to Real Madrid, Liverpool, PSG, Manchester City, and you're selling for a profit, then your recruitment department is...
But the point is, my point is that you bone idle scrotes in the media latch on upon a narrative and you never let it go. So poor Bill Foley now will have to live with the moniker that you've attached to him, that he's got a selling club rather than an ambitious one. And that's what you meant.
That Bill Foley knows about me is I'll always have Bournemouth's back, Simon. They're a club that I've followed for a long time.
And you're certainly not bone idle.
But he's a scrote.
Thank you, Danny.
Alex, let's get this one out before this descends any further. James Ward-Prowse, again, a player who seems to be standing still at this particular time.
Yeah, obviously has been frozen out of West Ham under Nuno, as he was at Forest actually during his loan spell. Was back on the bench for West Ham at the weekend, but I think only out of necessity. Looks like he's off to Burnley on loan to go and play for a manager in Scott Parker, who I think will appreciate his talent and his attitude as well. Probably too little, too late to save Burnley from their inevitable return to the Championship, but a good move, I think, for Ward-Prowse just to get out and get some minutes.
On set plays alone, he could get you an extra 6-9 points.
Yeah, well, maybe Scott Parker thinks the same. Alex, you held your poise throughout that. Thank you so much, in spite of the giggling hinge and bracket to my left. That was all thanks to Intuit QuickBooks. Search QuickBooks and you'll find out more.
Transfer window update on talkSPORT with Intuit QuickBooks. Tackle your self-assessment with Intuit QuickBooks. Search QuickBooks to find out more.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
To South Africa with the Barmy Army on talkSPORT.
Well, England return to South Africa next winter. The Barmy Army will be out there in full force. This time you could be there too. We're giving away a week for two at the 2027 New Year's Test in Cape Town. Every day of the match, one of the world's greatest cricket grounds with flights, hotel, spending money, all covered for you. Your chance to secure two spots with the Barmy Army, so you'll be right in the mix with the rest of the fans. Here's how you can do it. Text WIN to 83338. Text costs £2.50, your standard network rate. The number to call is 03434187260. Lines close on February the 6th at 4 o'clock. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. If it doesn't, don't answer it. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full terms, conditions at talksport.com. For your chance to win, text WIN to 83338 right now. Danny is with us. Danny, at the start of the show, mentioned Emmanuel Petit, that you'd been out with him yesterday, Danny. Emmanuel Petit was a guest on this very show on Monday, and he said more than a few things. He was none too happy that there had been boos at the Emirates on Sunday after Arsenal, who of course lead the way in the Premier League, had lost to Manchester United. And Emmanuel wasn't having it.
I've been listening to former players on different stage, and saying the same thing. Mental strains. Are they going to lose the title? Or the same thing, and again, every week like this. It's been like that against Liverpool after the game. It's been like that yesterday after the game, and I'm very tired about it.
You're not having it.
No, I'm not having it.
Arsenal lose at home,
because
and all the heads
Arsenal
go down.
are still first, leading the table, 4 points. The last 5 games, if you took only the last 5 games, they are third on the table. Where are City? Where are Aston Villa? They are far away from them, Aston Villa won yesterday at Newcastle. They lost last week at home against Everton. City is the same. They don't win every single game. So stop the negativity, especially for the Arsenal fans. I want you to support the team until the end. Stop. I want you to believe that they are able, they have the strength, the quality to win the title. I'm so tired of it.
That was a kind of French rant, but it was interesting, and he went for it. And then Arteta has since spoken, saying he got together with the players since, and he said, we had a great meeting. It was encouraging, in fact, beautiful.
The reaction has been excellent. We took a moment to bring the temperature down, to pause and to reflect and ask 2 questions. One is, how do we feel? And how do I feel myself? And then how we want to live the next 4 months. And it was so encouraging and beautiful, because what came out of that is very simple. We have earned the right to be in a great position in 4 competitions, and in the next 4 months we're going to live and play with enjoyment, with a lot of courage, and with the conviction that we're going to win it. And this is going to be the mindset and where we're going to put the energy. And I'm just hoping that everybody that is related to this club, especially our supporters, jump on that boat, because this is the way that we're going to live the next 4 months, because we deserve to live like this.
We deserve to live like this. I like that. You like that, Dan?
I do. I thought it was a good response, articulate, calm, exactly what you want to hear, and a very clever way of trying to get the fans back on board. Going back to Manny's words, I spoke to him about this yesterday, actually, in a bit more detail, and I concur with him. I only realised it myself because I was at the Arsenal-Liverpool game in the Prem, and mid-second half when Liverpool were keeping the ball well and Arsenal regained it, then lose it again, and maybe they were lacking a bit of confidence or energy, whatever it was. The reaction of the fans, I was baffled by. It was so negative. Some of the things that were being shouted, and I know they're nervous and I know they want to win so desperately, but it really doesn't help the players. So I agree with him. It's hard to get, 60, 65, however, 65, to get them all on board every game when, you might not be winning and the other team like Man U come and play well, but I just try and... People will say this because I'm a Liverpool... My experience is Liverpool, Anfield. And of course you can have a bad day there and the fans get on you, and they are a bit disgruntled at the moment. But I can guarantee you if Liverpool are top of the table by 4 or 7 points and it's 0-0 at home to one of the rivals in the second half, you're not getting that. You won't get what I heard the Arsenal fans giving the Arsenal players in the second half against Liverpool.
Why did they get it then? Is it because they've gone so close, Simon, before? They were in the home run, they didn't go over the line.
They want success, don't they? The Arsenal fans are desperate for it. It's been so long. I get it. I understand it.
It's scratching at old wounds, though, isn't it?
Look, the players have to be able to overcome that. You do, if you want to get over the line. It's just something you have to overcome.
Prevalent was it? I mean, when we're talking about...
It's hard because I was enclosed in a certain area to know how widespread it was. But the disappointment at the end of the United game was pretty widespread, wasn't it?
They lost the game, didn't they?
Yeah.
So there's an element of the fact that they've lost the game against what people consider to be a declining force.
To a great goal.
To a great goal, but they've still lost the game. And so the fans will do what they do, which is be frustrated. We've seen in the past these ghastly little creations like Arsenal Fan TV that do nothing but spread misery and unhappiness and love to spend their time insulting their own team. Whether it was, obviously Emmanuel got a reaction from certain fans that came on the show and told him to pack it in. He was a rat and run off to Barcelona at the first opportunity, and that was because he was wagging his fingers at the fan base. In the end of the day, the players are the ones that overcome the opposition, not the fans. So it's nice to have everybody behind you, but if you haven't, don't use it as an excuse. That's not an excuse. You can still win this league on your own volition, whether the fans are booing you or they're celebrating you.
Yeah, that's true.
What about Arteta there, Simon? Did you like?
I like him.
The cut of his jib there.
Yeah, I do. I've gone in and out of times with Arteta, from the original thinking that he was very substantial to them thinking he was all theory, and then going back into the circle of understanding that actually he's a lot more to him. I think some of the things he says at times are silly, but I think some of the things that people do in modern day football are silly at times. When he starts talking about footballs that they can't kick in one competition but they can kick in another, and the reasons why they didn't target is they're not used to kicking a certain football. I think some of those things are silly.
Or pickpockets at restaurants.
Yeah, and and starts using the Edison's light bulb as a moment, and whatever. The guy is presiding over a real increase in Arsenal's returns in terms of how competitive they are in the league. They should win the league this year. If they don't win the league, I think they can do more than win the league. I think they can win 2 or 3 competitions. I think they can really have a go at the Champions League. I think they will win the Premier League, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won one of the cups.
Well, I said on Saturday on Match of the Day, because I was talking with Wayne about it in the show, and I said I actually think this will just give them a kick up the backside.
Yeah,
I think it'll just refocus them.
I think if they don't win the treble, it's an unprecedented failure. I think it should be judged by those standards, and all these fair weather fans like Frank Warren that pop up every now and again should be held to account for it.
I think, on a serious note, if Arsenal fans were given the league today, and only the league, they'd take it. They'd embrace it.
Do you know what? They sit on top of the league in the Champions League.
No,
top of the league in the Premier League. Why not win both? Why not shut up any disgruntled fan by saying, "How'd you like that?"
Reach for the stars
in one season
to win the league again for Arsenal.
Actually, on that, Tony Adams is going to be a guest in the Sunday edition with Henry Winter, Sean Custis this Sunday from 9 o'clock. Mr. Jordan and I will be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Danny, we salute you. Fabulous as always.
See you Monday.
See you Monday?
Yeah.
Really?
Deadline day.
Of course. I almost forgot.
Can I come?
Of course you can.
Bring a yellow tie.
We'll be inviting you on at any time you like. We're on air from 6:30 in the evening.
Yeah, thank God for that. So we're doing the morning show from 10 and then we're back at 6:30. What do I know? I only work here. It's 1 o'clock.